Yo, how's it going? Let me know if I have to balance my audio at all. I think my mic might be a little bit loud compared to the music, but let me know. Cool, thank you. Now let's see, let me try to rearrange my windows a little bit to make it easier to read chat or whatever. That should be good. Okay, my view count is still showing up to 0. Oh, there it goes. Wow, that's a lot of people. Cool. Let's hope this goes well. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining the stream. My name is Dan Salvato. You probably know that. I think this is my first time actually like publicly playing DDLC, but I figured that given that, you know, the game's been out for a year now, it'd be good for me to kind of just, you know, give it a little playthrough, talk about, you know, how shitty the game is, whatever. I don't know. I don't really like have many plans. You can probably tell just by, I don't know, me not really doing anything cool for the anniversary and me being late to the stream, that I don't really like have much shit together right now in general. I don't know. You know, I guess things have been like pretty stressful in general. Like my mental health hasn't really been so great the past few months probably. But you know, I just I don't know. There's so many amazing and supportive people in the community, and I don't know. I love seeing all the cool stuff that you do and make every day. And I figured that, you know, I would kind of owe it to everybody to just do something small at least. So, you know, I'm here to have fun with everyone, and that's what we're gonna do. Let me see, my mouse cursor isn't appearing, so let me turn that on real quick. That's better. Okay. I should also warn you that, like, it's, you know, I wasn't lying when I said that. I'm not, like, you know, there's nothing super special that's going to be happening. I really don't have anything to, like, announce or anything like that right now. You know, I'm, like, you know, I'm, like, you know, I'm like, moving forward with everything, and, when the time comes, it will be here, but unfortunately I was just not able to like coincide it with this day or anything like that. So I don't know, I apologize for that. I'm gonna like have probably like write a blog post about this stuff as well a little bit, you know, just to give everyone kind of the update they deserve, because, you know, I know everyone's like waiting for new content and stuff like that, but you know, I'm doing my best. So that's what I have to say on that. So I apologize if you were like here or waiting around hoping for something like that, but you know, feel free to leave. I won't be offended. Let's see. Thank you for all of your kind words. Yo, Yami Amarillo. I completely butchered that name, but that's awesome. I haven't seen you in so long. You were like around for my Yoshi Story speedruns. I really want to get back on that again, man. I don't know. Once I like have like a proper like kind of schedule for myself, I really want to start kind of doing more regular streams, like a couple times a week or something like that, and just, you know, to do my normal stuff like speedrunning and like, you know, Stepmania, maybe some Smash. Yeah, I definitely want to get back on that stuff again. I've been pretty involved recently in like the Yoshi Story speedrun community. It's been like really active, which is great. You know, there's like several active runners, more than there has been in years, and it's just so amazing to like just see people improving their times and like, you know, me being able to help out and stuff like that. It's really amazing. So you know, if you like Yoshi's Story, then feel free to check us out. Hello, Bijou Mike. I don't actually know how to pronounce your name, but I hope that was close enough. Thank you so much for, and all of the other content creators out there, thank you so much for like doing DDLC stuff like on YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that. I've had like so much fun, like watching playthroughs and things like that. You know, probably the first like month after the game came out, that's literally just like all I spent my days doing, was just like watching people play through the game, and it was just like so enjoyable. And I mostly have you to thank for, I think, the community, like, you know, kind of being like getting to where it has been. So I'm just tremendously grateful for that. So thank you so much. I'm super hyped for Ultimate. I think Ultimate is going to get me back into competitive Smash. Like, I actually want to like start traveling to tournaments and stuff again after Ultimate comes out. It looks like the Smash game that I've been waiting for. I'm like so excited. I'm just going to get started. I don't know why I'm like kind of delaying. Yeah, so I just want to have some fun kind of, you know, talking through the game as I play it. Let's speed up the text a little bit. Yeah, just, I don't know, some developer commentary would be fun, right? Yeah, for like, the first chapter of this game, like, I wrote the first chapter before anything else, because I was like, okay, this is like, you know, I need to kind of like lay the groundwork for like the most generic, tropey, like dating sim that I can think of. And literally just starting off in the first scene, it's like, I don't know, the trope of like the childhood friend like wanting to walk to school together, and like the, you know, the kind of asshole guy like not really, you know, kind of being sarcastic and like not really wanting to be with her. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like you just see that come up all the time, and I thought it was just a really fun way of starting off the game. I think Sayuri had like a few character inspirations throughout like various, you know, various shows and stuff like that. You know, naturally the characters were inspired by just like you know, like oftentimes like really tropey dating sims or visual novels, but they probably took some inspiration from like other shows that I've watched and enjoy, you know. Sayuri probably has a little bit of Yui from K-On!, for instance, you know, how she's kind of like, you know, very bubbly and like clumsy, and but when she's being goofy, it's like it's like half being clumsy, but half like she's doing it on purpose just to kind of, you know, lift everyone's spirits. But it's not like they're a complete match. I just think like her general goofiness, I feel like that's kind of what I had in mind when I was like writing some of those scenes, you know. But you know, the whole like childhood friend thing is where she gets like really really tropey, in my opinion. And also there are so many freaking shows and like where and Count is one of them, where it's like it starts off where it's like there's the club and they like kind of need one more member for the club, and then there's like the members coming in and they're like reluctant, and you know they have to like take some convincing. I don't know, you see it like so many times, and half of them are probably like those, I don't know, really crappy shows that get like a you know, like a 4 on my anime list, but they just like kind of recycle those same tropes to try to make like the, you know, appealing slice of life characters. And so it like, I don't know, it worked out like, it felt so natural like writing that as the first chapter. I'm just like, I kind of just like, I mean the first draft anyway, I sort of like plowed through this and I'm like why is this so easy to write? You know, probably because I've read it like so many times. I tried to balance out the dialogue between each of the characters so you can kind of like get a good introduction to each of them. But you know, then it's like the MC is just like, I never said I would join the club, and then all the girls get dejected, and he's like, all right, fine, I'll join the club, and then they're all happy. You know, I think like it came together pretty well, but like it's, you know, it's so completely unoriginal. But I think that's a big reason I like it. When I like started writing this, I was like, why am I having so much fun just like writing this like moe garbage? It was like a lot of fun to write. I'm just like, you know, because I was like, I had like done other writing in the past that's normally like really like serious stuff, you know, and so like kind of when I was like, you know, put that aside and like started writing this, I'm like, this is such like a breath of fresh air to just like, you know, write like the dumbest thing I possibly can. I mean, like, you know, when talking about like the first couple chapters of this game, for instance, it just made it like really easy to start off writing this. Let's see. I love this line. This club is full of incredibly cute girls. It's so like, I don't know. I like to think like, for people who like pick up this game and they like don't really know what it's about, and people are like, oh, just play it. And then like they start playing it and they see this, they're just like, this is probably the first point where they're just like, oh my freaking god, like what am I getting into right now? Another interesting observation for like, you know, because a lot of people play this game who like don't play visual novels or like haven't like seen much anime, you know, and they don't see Natsuki as like, oh, she's like the tsundere type, you know, like that's cute or whatever, you know, like all the weeaboos like Natsuki, like her shirts sell the best, for instance, because only weeaboos are gonna like plaster an anime girl on their body, but I'm just kidding. Half the stuff I say don't take completely seriously, but you know, but people who like don't watch anime, they're just like, wow, Natsuki is like a jerk, you know, like, you know, I want to stay away from her. They don't understand the appeal, man. They don't understand the tsundere. Meanwhile, they're like all about Yuri. They're like, oh my god, she's so like shy and cute, you know. You know, that's obviously the first thing that you notice about her. I really liked kind of writing the little banter like between the characters and like seeing their different personalities like interact with each other. I always felt that when you have like slice of life, it shines the most when you take like characters with clashing personalities and you have them, you know, you give them like interesting interactions between each other. That's the sort that I've like always preferred, and you know, ones that you just like sit through and you just like feel charmed the whole time because you just like spending time with the characters. I think it's when like you know, when there's a lot of focus on kind of their interpersonal relationships and banter and interactions, you know. I prefer that over the types of slice of life that use the tropes to set up like one-liners and punchlines the whole time, if you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot that do that as well. It's like their personality or like their trope becomes like the punchline over and over. I like that less than just seeing like interesting interactions between all the characters, and that always makes me like spending time with the characters. And so you know, I think I try to focus on that more than just like it's like setting up for those punchlines, if that makes sense. It's not like I made it for you or anything. I had to put like this in here, which you know, obviously people who are familiar with anime and dating sims understand that. But a lot of other people actually like didn't really get it, you know, because the quote, "It's not like I made them for you or anything," is like not you know, they're not like familiar with that meme or whatever you want to call it. Dummy. Baka. Oh, another thing that I really tried to do with this dialogue, which I don't really mention all that much, but I deliberately wrote the sentence structure and the phrases to make it feel like it was like a poorly translated Japanese visual novel. Like, there's just certain phrases that are like you hear in like Japanese, but you don't really hear in English. Like when someone is like, "That's," like dash, like cut or ellipses, you know, like "sore wa," and they like trail off. You don't really hear that in like English, but I like tried to put those things in here to like make it feel just that much more cheesy, if that makes sense. Like, right, this is a good example. That's not. Which makes me think, like, when it's translated back into Japanese, like for the Japanese fan translation, it's like, you know, I wonder if that like little aspect of it gets maintained, you know? I guess it does, because that's the way that like anime and manga and visual novels are written anyway, so it's still like tropey in that regard. But I think there's like that kind of extra layer, you know, like that meta element, this sort of satire of like, you know, being an English visual novel that's like pretended to be translated from Japanese. You know, and I also thought about like, you know, like what would like you know, if someone is like, you know, like a super like into anime, just like a teenager, and they're like making their first visual novel, and they like are like piling in all the tropes because that's kind of just like what they have to play with and what they know how to write, where it's sort of in like the fake Japan, and they like use the phrases that anime characters use. I try to like kind of think from that perspective and build like the world and the writing around that, at least initially. I think it was a challenge to take that approach, but at the same time make it feel like professional enough that like it just doesn't feel like total garbage when you first pick it up, you know? Like between you know, just like the art and the menus and the music. I spent like a lot of time on the menus, just making it feel like, you know, like I was thinking about actual like more professional like visual novels that are made by studios, and like kind of how the menus are like animated and have like, you know, a nice like life and theme to them. You know, how the title screen is like animated and stuff. So I like played around with that a lot pretty early on, and I was like, once I started like, you know, animating the title screen and stuff like that, I just like, I felt I was like so proud of it. I'm like, because I didn't really know my abilities, or like, there's some things that I can like do, but I don't feel confident in them because I've only like touched upon them, and that sort of thing, like UI or animation was one of those things. So when I like when I kind of did that, and I actually like I looked at it and I'm like, I was like happy with the way it looked. It was like such a great feeling, So that's one of the things early on that I just like felt really good about for this game. Yeah, I'll probably be archiving this. I'm probably gonna like go go back and skim through it and be like, wow, I shouldn't have said that. But if I don't archive it, then someone else is probably going to, so it might as well be me. Oh, this is interesting. This line, when Yuri says, I've been reading a lot of horror lately, she used to say, I've been reading a lot of Stephen King. But pretty, like, just a couple months before I released the game, I changed that line because I watched the anime School Live, or School Live, Gakko Godashi, and one of the characters, like, is reading, like, a Stephen King book, and that's also, like, starts off as like a cute show and then like turns into like a kind of horror, and I was like, oh my, like I watched that show and I'm like, oh my god, people are gonna think I copied this show. So I actually like removed the Stephen King line because like I was afraid of being accused of like copying that show. That was a really good show though. It's like every episode was like so sad. That's like just what I felt throughout the whole show. So it like really captivated me for that, I think. Because it's just like every episode focused on like what was lost, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's just like, something really severe or like, really heartbreaking. Gotta get a little physical in the first episode to, hook the audience. Get them to, buy your merch. And she comes up along behind Natsuki and, like, I don't know. That's what I was thinking of. It's not like fan service, but it's sort of like, I don't know. It's, already giving you, like... I don't know. It's like putting one foot in the door, saying like, "Oh, like this is okay," Oh yeah, sorry if I'm like sniffling a lot. Maybe I'm a little bit sick. I think I've had like a minor cold recently. How do I feel about having impacted the anime culture of this generation, or having so impacted? I don't think... Well, the funny thing is, I don't think DDLC, like, had much... It didn't, like, influence the culture, or, like, push it in a specific direction. DDLC is based on, like, Western anime culture. How... Or at least, like, how it's been the past couple of years, where, like, people kind of make fun of anime, but they love it at the same time. They just like love poking fun at themselves, and how it's become like very kind of meme centric. I think the game is satire because of its place in Western anime culture. Like on the surface, if you look at like the first act of the game, it's not literally satire. It's just like a generic dating sim, but it becomes satire in the context of the existing culture. Or that's kind of the way that I see it anyway. So I like to think that the game is more based on the culture and not really like the other way around. I know that like there's now like a lot of like DDLC memes and stuff like that, like in you know, a lot of anime communities online, and that's still like pretty crazy for me to see. It always has been, you know. I'm just still not used to it. But I think that's just because it fits right in with the existing culture, if that makes sense. Was I inspired by Giffany from Gravity Falls? That was another instance where I saw that episode like after DDLC was kind of underway, and that probably happened with several things where I'm like, you know, I saw it, I'm like, oh man, now people are gonna think I like copied this or whatever. Actually, the same thing happened with Undertale, because I explained the plot of DDLC to some people and they're like, oh, like Undertale, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about because I haven't played the game yet, but maybe I should not play the game so I can do my own thing with DDLC instead of like accidentally taking too much influence from it or something like that. So that was like, that also happened with Totino. I forget the full name of that visual novel, but the same thing happened. I was working on DDLC and some people are like, oh, that, you know, that's like Totino, where like the girl, I don't know, kind of like there's one like route or ending where she like breaks the fourth wall or whatever, and I'm like, okay, you know, let me try to like avoid that so I don't take like too much of a direct inspiration from it. But it just goes to show that like the core concept behind DDLC is like not that original, you know? It's been like done a lot of times. I think that's the case with a lot of media, you know? Like how many, you know, like how much anime is just like the same basic plot, especially like slice of life, but then there's probably one or two that you just like so much more for some reason because, you know, that's how I feel anyway with like certain types of media, because oftentimes it's like something you more personally relate to or something you like about the execution or the characters or whatever. You know, that's the case with games with like, you know, DDLC, Undertale, Totino. People have their preferences on which they like more. I after DDLC came out, I think people were comparing certain aspects of the game to Totino, and a lot of like visual novel enthusiasts felt that it was like a I guess like I'm trying to remember because I still haven't played Totino, so like I can't draw any direct comparisons, but I think people were saying it was like a less fleshed out version where you like don't get to know the characters as much, and it seems more like it's just for like the one thing, whereas Totino like tells a more complete story. I could be wrong because again I'm just trying to remember what people were saying about it, but the point is that like yeah, it can be the same core concepts, and people just have different preferences on the execution. And there are a lot of people who like the way that DDLC was executed, despite it, you know, other types of media having done it as well. And that's something that I, of course, can't help but be very happy with. I'm really glad to have provided that concept in a way that people enjoyed that much. Yeah, that was it. Kimi to Kanojo no Koi. When I say Totino, I think that's, people also refer to it as that, right? If I'm recalling correctly. But when I was saying Totino, I meant that game. Yeah, I still don't play DDLC mods myself, and there's a couple of reasons. I think I only like, you know, I haven't really talked about that too much, but I'll just, you know, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people asking like what my opinion is on like certain mods and things like that. Yeah, I decided pretty much like not to, you know, not to like start seeking out and like playing those mods because I think it would be just unfair for a couple of reasons. One, it's guaranteed that I'd only get the chance to play some mods and not play some others, and it would be really unfair for creators of certain mods to find out that like, you know, oh, like the creator played it, so, and they put that as kind of like a stamp of approval on the mod or something like that, or try to put it like above other mods because of that. You know, I think it's like it's not an even playing field like when the original developer starts getting involved with like the fan community. So I try to remain separate from that. The second reason is my experience playing mods would be just fundamentally different from other fans of the game because you know, like since I originally wrote the characters, I feel like the perspective that I would be going in, like playing mods, is just very different. You know, I would be in the same way I was when I was writing and playtesting the game. I would just kind of be like more critically evaluating like the character dialogue and thinking about like what they should say in this situation, and like, you know, sort of play it out more in my head. And so like it would be so much harder for me to like enjoy it because I just see the characters differently in that way, you know. And I think that's another reason it would be unfair. But yeah, in general, I think it's just you know, I love looking at the fan community from my perspective. You know, it's something I enjoy tremendously, but I think it's just not, you know, it's not something that I want to become too personally involved in, if that makes sense. Okay, what character should I go for? I'll let chat decide. Natsuki, Yuri, Monica, Yuri. There's Mythos, can you make like a straw poll or something? And just like spam the straw poll in the chat? I think that's probably the best way of doing this, because I'm not able to read it like from the actual chat. And I'll just do that, you know, make a new one every poem minigame. I think this is one of my favorite tracks in the game. I had so much fun writing this track. It shifted directions like several times until it got to the point where it is now. But like, I just feel like it's so, I don't know. For some people who like spend a lot of time on the poem minigame, like, I feel like it's a good track to kind of have on loop. Thank you, Mythos. Yeah, go ahead. Vote in the straw poll. Let's see which character comes out on top. Oh my god, I opened the straw poll and I'm like, wait, where's Monica? I forgot. Oh my god. That's so terrible. Wow, Sayuri's actually in the lead. That's actually pretty surprising, because, I mean, like, you know, in the most non-mean way possible, and, like, when I've done polls in the past, or, like, other analyses, Sayuri is, like, almost never on top, so I'm always glad to see her, get some love. It also like depends on the demographic and stuff, but all right. That's enough time. You can stop spamming Mythos. Let's go for Sayuri. So, oh man, let's hope I remember which words to pick. Well, this one's pretty obvious. That one's pretty obvious. Okay, probably this one. There are probably like people who are better at this than me. It's 8 out of 8 so far. Oh, I messed up. That's all right. Messed up again. Oh, I actually knew that one was Yuri. Oh well. That's Sayuri. That's Sayuri. Well, that's enough Sayuri to like be on her route anyway, so. Okay. We are back. Whoa, where did all these save files come from? Those must be from like playtesting in the past. That's funny. How is creating the 20XX Tournament Edition for Super Smash Bros. Melee? Thank you for asking. I love when I'm like at conventions or like, you know, like doing autographs or whatever, and people are like, yo, I love the stuff that you've done in Melee. I'm like, yes, boy. Like, you are part of the club, the real club, not the literature club. You're part of the real club. I love my Smash Boys. Yeah, it was so much fun making 20XXTE initially. Fixing bugs and stuff was incredibly stressful though, because, you know, I like took pre-orders for the memory cards, and then like all of a sudden, like, you know, I'm like responsible for all these people's money to like get the memory card to them and make sure it's like relatively bug free, and like, I don't know, that was like an incredibly stressful period in my life. That was like horrible, like going through that. I like definitely could have done that better, but that was like years ago at this point, and like after that it was so much fun for me to like add new features and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm gonna be getting Ultimate. I'm probably gonna try playing it competitively as well. Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit more about the music in this game. I would say that like, let me think. You know, the reason that I wanted to make the music myself as opposed to like hiring someone, for instance, was, you know, I feel like it's just the type of game where most of it's going to be like this really generic, upbeat, like dating sim music. And although my music production skills and composition skills are like not really at a professional level yet, like I'm able to make like simple sounding stuff with simple notes, you know, and kind of the repetitive melodies, and that's really what I wanted to do in this game. Just like, I don't know, make I wanted to like get the tunes kind of stuck in your head, like make them hummable, you know. I think theme songs are like in games are so great when it's like a very memorable and hummable tune, you know. Like especially after you're like done with the whole thing, and then like you're kind of reminded of it, and you hear like the first few notes, and it just like kind of like brings all the feelings back, you know. That's happened to me with like certain movies and certain games, you know. And so I was like, I thought that with my kind of, you know, very simple writing, I would be able to do that, and like repeating motifs throughout the game. So that's kind of what I had in mind for that. I'm like, okay, well, I have that kind of approach that I want to do with it, and since my skills are at least good enough to do that, like, you know, I feel like I should be able to do that myself. And I have like a lot of scrapped, you know, like tried to start certain songs, and like they just didn't really happen because either I wasn't good enough or like the idea wasn't good enough. So it took me like a lot of tries to like get the songs in the game that I have now. But I'm overall happy with the way that they turned out. MC throwing some shade at Sayori. Of course, because she's like the ditzy childhood friend, and he's like, oh, you can't do anything right. And she's like, hee hee hee, I love you even though you're an asshole. And Sayori is trying to be like, I don't know, trying to like hook up MC with like the other club members. Not literally hook up, but she's trying to like kind of like bring them together a little bit, because she's just like, I want everyone to be friends with each other and not care about me. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that in such like a making fun of her lighthearted way. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to go to Otakuthon this year, but it just, Unfortunately, I was not able to. But yeah, I would definitely love to go to it next year. And here's MC just like smooth talking his way through every situation. His personality just changes depending on the girl he's talking to, because that's another thing where it's like in, you know, in like these dating sims, the MC is like a total blank slate who like sort of has his own personality, but like he just, he says whatever is like appropriate for the trope of the character he's like talking to, you know? So it's like, oh, the childhood friend he's like kind of mean to, the shy girl he's just like really like encouraging and like, you know, like, I don't know, compliments them and stuff. And then like the tsundere he like teases, and then of course like the class star, that's when he gets like all like nervous and awkward. When I was like working on the early stages of the game, I decided on the overall chapter structure pretty early on. I was like, okay, let's have the base chapters, and then you get the exclusive scene depending on like which girl you select in the minigame, because that's the way a lot of like dating sims work anyway, where it's like at the end of the chapter, it's like you pick the girl that you want to like pursue, like especially like the like kind of the lower budget ones, or like the eroge. It just like literally lets you pick the girl. So I was like, you know, let's make that a little more interactive and do like the poem minigame, you know, and just kind of integrate it a little bit more into the linear story. So I had like, you know, base chapter, and then like put the exclusive scene in there, and then the poem responses, and then like the chapter ending, you know. And I was like, okay, let's do this a few times. So the poem responses was something that I was actually like, you know, that I was working on completely separately from like the rest of the storyline. I had like the poem responses like files, and just every now and then I would like add some more poem responses for the characters, and like just get those, you know, where I wanted them. And it was easy to do it that way because I can like reference their responses from previous chapters and make sure that like, you know, they're like, oh, this is better than yesterday's. That like, you know, was easy to have that all self-contained and like work on that individually. To like make sure it had that sort of continuity. And then as I fleshed out like the main story more, I was able to go back into the poem responses and like make some changes to make it a little more coherent with the main story as well. I never considered having voice acting in this game, because that was beyond the scope of like what I wanted to do. I decided pretty early on like what this game was going to be and like how much effort it would take, which I think is really important when you work on these projects. Like you need to realistically assess everything that goes into it and make sure that like it's something that's feasible to do within your budget, within your skill level, and can be like released in a reasonable amount of time. And that's what I did with DDLC, because, you know, it could have been, you know, you can come up with like a million things that could have been done either differently or could have been added to the game, you know, and there's certain things that, you know, if I decided to work another year on the game, for instance, I'd probably come up with more content that I would, you know, feel like adding in there, but that's just not what I decided the scope of the game to be, and I focused on like doing the things that I just wanted to do with it. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but kind of voice acting sort of falls under that, because finding voice actors and like, you know, suitable ones, and doing auditions and hiring them and like recording all the lines and like re-recording them, and then like mixing them into the game properly, that is all stuff that takes so much work, you know, like an incredible amount. And I decided it was just like, you know, beyond the scope of this game. Aside from that, another important thing to note is that this game is not written in a way that's designed to be spoken out loud, because as I was saying before, it's written as if it's kind of like poorly translated into English from like, you know, the original Japanese or, you know, original, like, you know, taking like Japanese phrases and stuff like that. It's like stuff that, especially in English, just sounds really awkward when spoken out loud, like in a literal sense. You know, I think that when you're writing like dialogue, it's written differently if you write it for the purpose of being spoken out loud versus for the purpose of being read on a screen. So that's one thing I considered as well. And it's just, you know, I don't call voice acting like something that's missing from the game, because based on that, it probably just wouldn't fit properly with the way the dialogue is right now. And you get a different experience when voice acting is not there, because hearing the voices in your head is a different experience in itself versus hearing it out loud. That is why at the end of the game, when you hear Monica talk, and of course like sing Your Reality, I like, my first thought when I decided to do that was like, this might not work well, because people are going to have their own voice for Monica through the entire game, like in their head, you know, or just not have a voice for her. And then they finally hear her talk, and they're like, oh wow, she sounds like so different from what I imagined, you know? And there's sort of like a disconnect there. And I was afraid that would kind of like ruin the moment. And for some people, like they definitely experienced that. But I was like, you know, I was thinking like, okay, like I understand that downside, but it's a sacrifice that I feel that I need to make in order to like kind of make the ending the way that I want to make it. So that's definitely something that I thought about. Do I have tissues down here? I do. Sorry. I'm going to mute my mic while I blow my nose so you don't have to hear that nastiness. Alright, we're back. Oh yeah, and also like hearing all the content creators like silly voices, or not always silly, but sometimes they actually brought in like their own like kind of friends to do the voice acting, or if it was like multiple people playing through it, they like did different voices for each of the characters. That was like so much fun, you know. That wouldn't have been there if you know, again, if the game had voices. And it's you know, I'm not trying to make any justification. I'm just saying it's like a different experience based on like which you choose, and it's not like one is strictly better than the other. Maybe I should be talking more about like the actual content of the game. I keep getting like sidetracked because it's like all this random stuff that comes to my mind. With the exclusive scenes, I think Sayori's was probably the most challenging, because Sayori's one-on-one interactions with MC have to be in the context of them having like been best friends since childhood, or at least like good friends since childhood, you know. And you know, it kind of implies that they like lost touch a little bit recently, but the point is that like they have this whole history together, and so they fundamentally treat each other differently, and they make references to like things they already know about each other, you know, and like past events, and like a lot of that stuff was like, you know, kind of difficult to come up with, even though it's all like pretty simple stuff. It's like when you're thinking about their dialogue interactions, like you can't just kind of do as much of whatever you want as you can with like Natsuki and Yuri, who are like who are completely fresh to MC. You have to like put a lot of thought into how to make them feel like they've known each other for a long time. And you know, with this scene here, you know, I sort of wanted to like, I mean, like you're going for Sayori because you picked her in the poem minigame, or maybe that's just like the result that you happened to get. But the point is that instead of like, you know, MC just being strictly mean to her, like I tried to kind of show that like they're a good balance for each other, you know? Where like, you know, Sayori like looks out for him and he looks out for her, and they both like complement each other in different ways, if that makes sense, you know? Let's just click through this booby talk. We don't need that on my stream. This is a PG stream. I didn't like. It was actually really funny because that CG specifically. What is it? Before the game came out, I like printed some CGs on like some postcards and like handed them out at like a local convention, and I just completely didn't realize that out of context it looks like he's like unbuttoning her shirt. And I'm like, oh my god. And that was the one that people took the least of, most likely because they don't want to have like a, you know, such a lewd scene on display. In context, it's like obviously not as bad, but it's still like sort of, you know, the imagery is like, you know, a little bit fan servicey, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't really like going for that, I don't think. I was just like, I don't know. I was like, let's do the thing that like anime does, or like that dating sims do, where they have to sneak some kind of like, you know, some kind of boobs joke in there. And like make everyone feel awkward. I love when Monica just like flies into the scene and like just interrupts whatever's going on. You know, and of course in some of the later exclusive scenes she like does it on purpose to basically like, I don't know, break the romance between MC and the other character. It's just, I don't know. It was always fun like kind of throwing that in there because the reader is like, yes, it's happening, and then she just like swoops in from the side and they're like, oh my god, come on, Monica. Monica, no, I mean, yeah, Monica never had like a route because the whole point of the game is that she doesn't, you know? That's the reason that the game has a plot. The plot is centered around the fact that she is not obtainable. I think in the same way that I mentioned that like dialogue in the exclusives with Sayori was difficult, her poem responses were also pretty difficult because her I don't know, her trope makes it a little harder for her to like overtly crush on the protagonist because they already have their system, or they already have their like dynamic, and it's hard to like, I don't know. Natsuki and Yuri, like, I don't know, their tropes lend themselves so well to you just like doing stupidly cute stuff with them, but I feel like it was a little more difficult with Sayori, you know, with like the established friendship, and you know, I can't rely on her just like, you know, getting all like shy or whatever, like, and blushy like with Natsuki and Yuri. I had to like, you know, I guess come up with a couple other ways of showing her kind of like, you know, falling for you a little bit more. Hive Nightly, if you're looking for shirts, we recently launched a bunch of t-shirts with for fans by fans, which is basically like like licensed fan art that's being provided on merchandise. There's some like really awesome designs that they do, and then the official online store is like fairly soon getting like an overhaul, and that's going to include some nice shirts as well. And these are things where I'm like, you know, supervising and like approving all the designs. And I'm like very happy with them. And then finally, there's like, you know, one or two other things for the future as well. That's like a few months away or whatever. But those are the things that are most immediately happening. If you want, you know, if you're looking for shirts like right now, then definitely check out For Fans by Fans. They have some like really great stuff. Another one of the things that, like, you know, I was talking about before, how like I felt like really good and, you know, like proud about how I was able to like put enough effort, or I was able to get the UI and like the general aesthetic of the game to the point where like it you know, felt like fairly professional, I guess, or at least not like totally crappy. There were a couple like little touches that I added here and there, and like, you know, after I managed to pull them off, I was just like, I felt so good about it. And the music change for the poem games was one of those. I was like so excited to do that. You know, I was thinking like, oh, it'd be really cool if like the poem sharing song like changed as you're reading each character's poems, like to kind of suit the personality or the mood of the poem. But I wasn't sure like if or how I was going to be able to pull it off. And so after I kind of like composed them and like figured it out in the code, like I was just like really happy with the way it turned out. And you know, that's just like something about the game that you know, I'm just very glad that I did. Just those like little nice touches, I guess. So I think, yeah, from Sayori's first poem, there's already like the poem is basically about her depression, you know. You don't really, you're not gonna see it that way until I guess you really understand that about her, but it's about her, like, you know, finding the motivation to get out of bed in the morning. If it wasn't for you, I could sleep forever. Or maybe she's talking about the protagonist. Maybe the protagonist is the sunshine. Who knows? And it's open to interpretation, or whatever. Yeah. And then the "I want breakfast" line at the end. You know, that's just a little bit of silliness that I had to put in there for her. The music transitions were hard-coded, but they were coded in the Ren'Py engine, like with the music playback tools that Ren'Py provides in the SDK. So it was like during the showing of the poem, I used Ren'Py to take the current music position, and I fade that song out on one channel and start another channel with the poem song and fade it in, and take the same position that it like noted at the start of the fade out, and then the other channel like fades in at the same position as its starting point. So that's something that like Ren'Py made fairly easy to do. By easy, I mean like it did a pretty good amount of the work for me. But I still had to like figure out some logistics surrounding it. It ultimately wasn't that difficult to do. Yeah. Now the protagonist is like accidentally says something mean, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that." It was actually nice. He's like, I don't know. I like when he catches himself like being too mean, or like he like has trouble like really complimenting her, I guess. I don't know why, because like sometimes you just develop like a dynamic like in your friendship that you've had for like a long time, and then like you know, it kind of dictates like the way that you speak to them. It's like if you know, certain friendships, this especially goes, I think a lot of guys experience this, where, you know, you make guy friends and you just like, you can't really be too emotionally open to each other, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it's like can be harder to like compliment them on something, or like I don't know, something along those lines, and you sort of like beat around the bush, or you turn it into like a way of like, you know, teasing them in some way, or like joking about it, just to like kind of get out like what you're trying to say, you know. I think that is how the protagonist is with Sayori. It's like he can't just be direct with her because he already has this like established way that he is with her, and it takes him a long time to change that and start like really saying what he wants to say. Oh my god, it's Cedric. Yo, thank you for stopping by. Cedric's like a friend of mine from college. I haven't seen you in forever, man. I'm heading back to the East Coast like in November, and then again around Christmas time. So like if you're around either of those times, then please hit me up. Like I'll probably be in the New Brunswick area too, so. Okay. A lot of Natsuki's poem responses are like the shortest. Because she's just kind of like, you know, she's sort of like blunt anyway. So, and then, you know, Yuri kind of like, a lot of her dialogue sort of like drags on a little bit. Alright, I think we need to talk about this poem a little bit. I like, you know, I wrote this and I was so hesitant about it. I was like, this is way too like simple kind of, and like, I don't know, like too easy, if that makes sense. Like Natsuki is definitely a better writer than this, and so like, do I really want it to be like that? I don't know, like bad, if that's what you want to put it. And so many people like made fun of this poem so much when they read it for the first time. Oh my god. And that made me feel like even more self-conscious about it. In the end though, I think I think because of that, it ended up like standing out a little bit more, and people remember it because of its simplicity. Like its rhythm, and it's like kind of the quotes used in it, like I see them like resurface here and there, and so I guess in the end it sort of worked out. But like I felt bad that like, especially a lot of people who like aren't like into the tsundere type, like they already think Natsuki's like a jerk, and then they see like this ridiculously simple poem from him, and like, oh my god, like, you know, just like I should have given, like, I shouldn't say it, I should have, because I just talked about how like this ended up sort of working out in a way, but I feel bad that I didn't give her a little bit more credibility for, like, you know, I should have, you know, especially since you find out that she's like already a writer, and it's like, I don't know, it would be nice if she kind of like blew everyone away with like some, you know, like redeeming quality after she's kind of like this off-putting or like unappealing personality or whatever. I don't know. That's only from like one perspective, you know, the type of people who experience the game or the characters in that way. But like that was definitely on my mind. That's all I'm saying. But you can tell she's not confident in it. I don't know. Maybe like she didn't put much effort into it because she wasn't really feeling it. I mean, like the poem itself is like about like, you know, giving up in the first place, or how she like, you know, doesn't feel confident in it. So in that way, it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's you know, that might be one way to look at it. Mr. Protagonist has to like sugarcoat and be like, oh, I liked it. But there's like, you know, I mean, there's truth to that. Like, the protagonist is saying that, like, you know, he gets to the point, which is that like it's, the point is for someone to express themselves, and that immediately like gets Natsuki out of like sulk mode, and she's like, yes, like I'm glad you understand, and now I can like kind of talk about it in like a more serious way. I like when Natsuki so often gets like the short end of the stick, no pun intended there. But when she kind of has like redeeming moments, it's like, I like that. It's like, I feel like she deserves it, The whole point of her character was that like she, you can tell she's in like probably a really bad friend group for her, where like, it's one of those friend groups in like high school or like, I don't know. So a lot of people like they have a friend group in middle school or high school where the dynamic of the friend group is just like they just like make fun of each other all the time, and they like pull pranks on each other, and like they're like mean, and it's like funny, and it's just like their dynamic. But when it gets to somebody a little too much, there's like no one there to really stop it, and that person can't like express that because it's not part of the dynamic, and so like things go a little bit too far. And I think that's the way it is for Natsuki, where she's like an insecure person, and like people probably make fun of her for her hobbies, and like that she likes manga and stuff like that, probably in jest, again, because that's just like how the friend group is. But like Natsuki really takes it to heart, and like it like really lowers her confidence, and feels like she is just always insecure around people. It's like that's how she thinks it has to be, and so she carries that personality like into the club, because that's just that's like what she knows, if that makes sense. And so she constantly feels the need to like find this sort of self-validation or like prove herself, and her like kind of general meanness to other people is probably stems from that dynamic that she had in the friend group too. And so that's just like it's an unfortunate situation, but a big part of her character development, I think, is like learning how to be comfortable with the other members of the club who are as interested in really being friends with her, in like a nice way as she probably is with them. So that's kind of like something I really wanted to do there with her character. It's like, if I'm gonna make like this tsundere this tsundere girl, like there has to be like if I want to personally, I guess, care about the character and not literally just have them be like a one-dimensional trope, then there has to be like, it's like, why is she behaving that way? You know what I mean? And I think through high school, like I was friends with so many people who like had these insecurities, or were like in those kinds of friend groups, and I had so many of my own insecurities, and like thinking back to like high school and in some cases middle school, like I was really thinking about like all these characters are probably just going through so many of those same things, and I really wanted to like convey that in their personalities. It's like a tough time for a lot of people. I think that's how it is for most of the characters in this game. Oh, Yuri. That's some shade right there. Yuri's it's interesting the contrast with Yuri, like as opposed to Natsuki. Yuri has a ton of insecurities as well, and she's like so afraid of being disliked for her interests, and she's so afraid of like speaking her mind or putting her thoughts into words because she like doesn't want to come off a certain way. But there are other things where she thinks like really highly of herself, or she tries to anyway. You know, I think she wants to convince herself that these certain things about her are like better than everyone else, and like the people who make fun of her are just like, you know, like immature and like childish, and she's like better than that. But I think that in itself is also like a defense mechanism, you know? And that's another angle that I also experienced kind of through middle and high school, that some people would take if they had those sorts of insecurities regarding other people, you know? I was probably guilty of that like in middle school, you know? I was like a, you know, kind of like a arrogant asshole. Probably more in my own head, I mean, you know, because like outwardly I was like a super like awkward weirdo who like didn't understand like social situations and stuff like that. You know, but in my, you know, so like when I didn't fit in to social situations, in my head I was like, oh, that's all beneath me, that's like immature garbage, you know? It was like, I don't know. It was, you know, it's like some pretty strong chunibyo. But I think I took some inspiration from that, like for Yuri. Because she's like in her head so much. But outwardly is like actually so afraid of being disliked. And of course, you know, like her sort of chunibyo nature, she's like, oh, I have to be like, you know, all sophisticated and like highbrow and intellectual. So her poems are like super metaphorical and like, I don't know, has some like more advanced vocabulary than the others. You know, but sometimes like getting too abstract and metaphorical is like, I think Natsuki actually says this too at the end of this chapter when she's like arguing with Yuri. She's like, oh, making the meaning all cryptic is just an excuse to not have any meaning at all. You know, you could just like kind of pull it out of your ass or whatever. You know, Yuri's like probably not doing that, but I think like being like, you know, the point is that being abstract and metaphorical doesn't directly equate to like being more skilled, if that makes sense, even if that's like what Yuri wants to believe, you know. If she like has that idea of like the more intellectual type of writing, it like has to be that, then that's just kind of like what she's pigeonholing herself into. Ooh, the poem was too hard for you to understand, because I'm such a good writer. Oh, it's nothing. Monica was really fun to write during the poem responses because her responses are like, they are, once again, like at this point in the game, like with Monica being like, she's supposed to come across as like the guide character, you know, or like kind of the mascot of the game who helps you along, like to, you know, pick the girl that you want or whatever. And so she like talks more about the other girls and is like, oh, this is what those characters like, you know? So, you know, you seem to be getting along with them and stuff like that. So she's kind of like the tutorial character, if that makes sense. And that's like the way that her dialogue is framed through this. You know, so she's like, oh, this is something Sayuri would like. So it's like, in case you're not picking up on like the way the poem minigame works, or like how to go for your character, she like, or you want to go for a different character, she like kind of explains like what each character likes in the vocabulary. And she teases you a little bit. She's like, oh, do you like her, and stuff like that. And she gets like more intense with that, like if you keep going for the same character, you know, because she's like starting to get jealous. It's almost like she understands her role as club president, and thus being like the person who's like leading you through the game, but she's like also having a hard time like holding back her jealousy or her envy of the player getting so many scenes with all the other characters. It's not like you have to worry about impressing them or anything. Already like breaking the fourth wall a little bit. It's so much fun to just like sneak those tiny little things in there that could be like taken in proper context, but also like thinking about it in that context is like, I don't know. And of course it's obvious enough that like all of Monika's poems are about you know, her like epiphany or the situation that she's in. She says that directly to you, I think, in Act 3 as well. Yeah, I thought that would be really interesting, where like she never really talks about what her poems are about. Like the other characters, like, you know, it's kind of more obvious what they're about, or they at least explain it, but Monika's like, you know, when the protagonist is like, oh, what's it about? She's like, oh, well, you know, it's just like kind of about this feeling that I had or whatever. He's like, what's the inspiration? And she's like, you know, I had some kind of epiphany. You know, that's pretty literal, but she obviously like doesn't go into more detail than that. And she kind of hides it behind like, oh yeah, like, you know, I don't want to get like too dramatic, because when you just make friends with someone, you want to ease into that sort of thing. You don't want to like dump all of your emotions onto them like right after you meet them. You know, because it's not like the mutual rapport that can be good for building friendships, and Monika's conscious of that. Or that's the way that she's framing it anyway. Really, she probably just like understands that her best chance at getting, you know, what she wants or needs is to play along with the game a little bit more and like kind of find her chance and like just learn a little bit more about what's going on. So she doesn't want to like jump right into like, you know, breaking the fourth wall and like ruining the player's experience along the way. Here's something that's very interesting. So Monika's writing tip of the day. That's something that, first of all, I had like a lot of fun with, because once again, you know, this game is full of setting up rules for itself that can later just be exploited and like do things that the player doesn't expect. But Monika's writing tip of the day originated because this particular one, when she's like, you know, giving you the tip where she's like, you know, just don't get stuck on like the one word. You know, if you keep your pen in the same spot, you get like a big dark puddle of ink. So just move your hand. You know, that is a direct reference to, of course, in your reality, the line, the ink flows down into a dark puddle. Just move your hand right the way into his heart. I was, like, when I came up with that line, I liked the line. But I was like, I need to make sure that, like, the metaphor that Monika is explaining, which is like her pen is in the same spot and she like can't decide like what to write next or like what choice to make next. But it's like, you know, causing more problems for her because it's like creating the dark puddle of ink and she needs to like, you know, just, you know, go with the flow. I felt the need to like just explain that a little bit better, because I felt like that was a little bit too much. Like the line in the song, I felt wasn't quite clear enough to get all of that context in there. So I was like, let's let's like include this as, like a writing tip in the game. And that's when I first decided to have like Monica's writing tip of the day, and have it like a recurring thing that I could like do other fun things with as well. So that's just a little interesting fact. And it's not like, when I say that, I'm not like trying to not give people enough credit, but I was just saying that, like, because that line could probably be like interpreted in various ways and stuff like that, but like that was one particular one where I wanted to like picture, the image that I had in mind for it, like I wanted to be able to better share that a little bit, and a cheap way of doing that was to just kind of like explain it a little bit better in the game itself, and then allude to that in the song. This scene was so much fun to write. The little argument scene, and it's like, oh, like pick the girl that you care about more, that you want to like, have a better chance with or whatever. But it was like, I really liked the dynamic between Natsuki and Yuri throughout the game, because they are both they both have like these flaws or insecurities, but in just like different ways. And I always felt like they could like learn something from each other, if that makes sense. That already started from this chapter where they like get into this argument where I wanted them to both be making valid points, but neither of them like actually agree with each other, because again, they're sort of pigeonholed into that one mentality about poems. I think it was a good way of like more outwardly expressing like characters like having flaws, Like they can't be like just the perfect cute trope that they represent. I mean, they could be, but like if a character, fundamentally, if a character has insecurities, then that's going to manifest in ways that turn it like that, cause I think these sorts of scenarios, or cause like flaws in their outward personality in certain ways. Oh, this song was also like so much fun to write. I think I didn't have this scene written yet when I came up with the song. I think I was in like a coffee shop with my sister, and I just heard a song that was playing on like like their Spotify playlist or whatever, and it's like the music was like really quiet, like oftentimes in coffee shops you like can't really hear the music unless it's like empty in there, but like I was able to hear like the bass and like the bass line of the song, and it sort of had that like a similar feel to like what's in this song, and so like that was like playing in my head like on the way home, and I ended up kind of just like extrapolating that into like more of a song, and I'm like, oh, this is such like a silly sounding like bouncy song that is like it would be really good if there's like something something frantic happening or panicky, or like something's not going quite right, like or like there's this argument, and so like I was like working on the song and like knew that it would be like a really good fit for something like this. So I'm really happy with the way that this song turned out as well. No, the name wasn't based on Doki Doki Panic. It was just based, I don't know. I came up with the name like long before I even started the game's development, because like it was just such an easy like generic name for the game, you know, like Doki Doki being like, you know, the obvious onomatopoeia for heart beating that like you hear so much in like anime and stuff like that, you know. That's more where it came from. And it was this Doki Doki Literature Club. Yeah, so of course, like all of a sudden for the argument, they like talk to they like turn to the protagonist, because they're both like trying to, I don't know. They're both like, well, he's, you know, he was like flattering me earlier, and he understands me, so let's like make him decide. It's like you gotta pick your girl, because they're like fighting over you. Not literally, but that's almost like that's like the way the scene is set up. It's like the two girls are like fighting over you, and you have to like pick who to go with, and then you have like Sayori as your cop out. So I guess we haven't decided who to go for yet for the next chapter. But I guess since we picked Sayori for the last chapter, I'll pick Sayori here. What a complete non-resolution. He's like, stop making Sayori uncomfortable. He's literally just like shifting the burden from him to her. She's like, oh, everyone like, you know, well, I don't know. He's just like needlessly involving her because he's like, doesn't want to deal with it himself. Kind of a crappy thing to do, but of course it magically works out in the end because it's a romance game and the protagonist can't do anything wrong. And she like tells it how it is. She's like, oh, there's redeeming qualities in both your poems, and like, you know, stop like getting so worked up over it. Stop like feeding into your insecurities, and you know, just learn to respect each other for your differences. That's like it's so funny because well, ignoring the boobs comment, which conveniently like diffuses the scene. It's so funny because there's a really ironic theme that I tried to incorporate into the game, and especially between Natsuki and Yuri and their own interests and like their insecurities, which is that if there's something that makes somebody happy, then like who are you to like, you know, be an elitist and say that like their taste is bad, for instance, you know? It's like, yeah, respecting, you know, even if it's something that you don't like, or even if you want to look down upon, if it is bringing joy to certain people, like you should respect that it does that for them, and let them experience that, and let them be happy with that. The reason I said it's ironic is here you are playing this like super generic like moe dating sim, and it's almost implying that that there's like you're most likely playing this game to make fun of it, or at least that was like half kind of half the audience coming in, like you know, that was the satire of the game, to make fun of it. And here's this theme that's kind of like telling you that that the people who actually enjoy those sorts of dating sims, you know, or spending time with fictional characters or watching anime or whatever, like, if they are enjoying that, then like, don't put them down because you think that it's because you have like a low opinion of it, you know, like, let them be happy with it and respect them for it. And there must be something about it that they're getting that enjoyment out of, and that should be enough for you to give it some, at the very least, some respect, even if you have no interest in it yourself. So that's sort of like the meta theme that goes on there, and that kind of recurs throughout the game when it comes to like Natsuki and Yuri, as they, you know, by the time we reach the epilogue, they sort of like decide to finally like respect each other's interests and, you know, see what makes the other person so happy about it, even if it's like not their thing. It's just, you know, it's I can't help but think back at like, you know, when I was in like middle school was around the time where like, I grew up playing Nintendo and I loved Nintendo, you know. There was just, there was like so much charm and magic behind like all these Nintendo games, and that continues to this day, where like a lot of their games, like, it's hard to not like just smile while I'm playing through, because there's like, I don't know, there's some kind of amazing charm to me behind them. But it was around middle school that like people started like being like, oh, you're like still playing that, like that baby shit, you know, like it's so like cartoony and it's like for babies. You gotta play like Call of Duty and like, you know, Madden, and I don't know. They were like, you know, it's when guys were hitting adolescence and they started becoming like probably more protective of their masculinity. And there's this disconnect, because I loved Nintendo, and, you know, I had a GameCube, and I just loved, like, you know, Nintendo games and Mario and all of that. And people were like, oh, that, like, you know, that stuff sucks. That's for babies. And that's obviously like a really direct example of that sort of thing. But it's like, you know, it's just like, come on, like, it, you know, makes me happy. Just like, let me enjoy it. But of course, I wasn't any better back then. I thought that I was better for liking Nintendo, and that they, like, you know, they had bad taste and they didn't understand, like, you know, what good games are or whatever, you know. So I was just as elitist as they were, but I didn't have that sort of ammo to use against them, I guess, in the same way. But that's just like looking back at my interests versus other people's interests, and the way that it made me feel when people like put down my interests. I think that, like, you know, trying to like thinking about it from multiple perspectives like that, I think it made me realize that I was probably doing the same thing to other people, and it was just like, you know, not fair. Like, if I'm entitled to my happiness for my interest, then, like, you know, they're entitled to what they want as well. That was like I guess a really long monologue about that, but it's just like, I guess something that I cared enough about to like put as like a recurring theme in this game, and so that's just why I wanted to like talk about it a good amount. Thank you, Mythos, for that straw poll. Who are we doing next? Best Girl 2 actress again, current code. Oh my god, that's so good. You know, today is Akiha's birthday. Akiha was my OG waifu. Tsukihime was the first visual novel that I played. And Akiha, like, like meant so much to me. You know, or I've always had like a lot of empathy when it comes to like fictional characters, and so like I don't know, like her story just like hit me so freaking hard, and like she was you know, she felt like a motivational person to me. And it is 100% complete coincidence that DDLC came out on her birthday. Let's see. I'll be right back. I gotta show you something cool. Yeah, boy. Check it out. Pretty sweet, right? I think I dropped the stand on the floor. Hold on. I actually kind of wanted to troll everybody today and just tweet out "Happy Birthday, Akiha." But I guess I didn't get around to it. It would have been hilarious, though. There we are. That doesn't look good. Just keep the camera up here. Alright, let's see what the poll came out as. Ooh, Sayori's on top again. Okay. Peace is a Natsu keyword? That's weird. I think the modding scene is great, or the fact that it exists as a community in general. Like, I care so much about people having the opportunity to get more out of the games that they enjoy, or media in general. I mean, I did a lot of modding work for Smash games. I was a Project M developer, and I made 20XX Tournament Edition for Melee, and that went along the same lines. Was to help people enjoy Smash more. So it's something that I think is like, something that's amazing to have. There are, there are some stipulations. Like, I mean, just if you own an intellectual property, then you can't really give like 100% free reign, or at least it's like unwise to do so. And so I wanted to do everything I can to like allow the modding community to do their own thing, while still have some like some basic guidelines to make sure that you're like not doing anything extremely wrong with copyrighted material, if that makes sense. Or in some cases things that like I'm not comfortable with. I have no rules about the content of mods, of course, because I believe in creative expression and getting what you as a fan want out of the content that you're writing or consuming. So the guidelines that I have are more about like copyright related stuff, but I love the fact that there's like a strong modding community for the game. Oh, what's up, Walsk? I didn't see you earlier. This was fun for like a few of the chapters of the game. Like, I just had to come up with like an intro to the chapter and like an ending to the chapter. I had to think about like what sort of silly little situation can I put the characters in, or like how can you get to know the characters a little bit more. And so it was actually sometimes a little bit challenging to come up with this stuff, but I think after, because it's kind of like, for instance, the beginning of this chapter is kind of like a little mini plot in itself with like the whole cookie thing. But it was like, ultimately, once I set down the foundation for it, just the dynamic between the characters felt really natural writing it, I think at this point, I had a pretty good understanding of the intricacies of each character and how they would like behave in the given situation, and it made writing their interpersonal dialogue just feel quite natural. I'll talk more about like the horror stuff, I guess, once I actually reach that point. I guess I'm going through the game like fairly slowly. How long have I been streaming? Like an hour and 45 minutes. It's because I keep like pausing to go on like these tangents and other monologues and stuff like that. I'm most likely going to find eventually tonight find like a stopping point and then continue tomorrow as well. Because it would be nice to like get through the whole game, you know what I mean? I think this was something that I actually like never got around to, but I wanted to animate the cookie flying through and like hitting Sayuri in the face, because without having that context, until like 3 lines later, this is something that I didn't think about when I was developing the game, that ended up happening a couple of times, where when you're given an onomatopoeia or a sound effect and then it's only explained in the next line, that's totally fine for people who are just like, reading through it. But for people who are like narrating the game or like live streaming it or whatever, they oftentimes, they analyze the lines as they come up, and they don't have the context until like the next line. And so like when that happens, people stop there, and they're like, did he just like slap her or something like that, and that's only the next line that they like understand what happened. That's that's something that I did not consider when developing the game. That sort of style of reading that people would have. Yeah, I would say tonight is probably going to stop around the end of Act 1, and then tomorrow will be like, Acts 2 and 3. Just play through the rest of the game. Yeah, Rocker, it is interesting that you bring that up. That's something that I thought about for a while, like after I released the game, like whether or not it was necessary to have the noise when you enter Sayori's bedroom, because looking back at the type of horror or like disturbing content that I wanted to do with the game, it made me sort of feel like the noise didn't need to be there, if that makes sense. I think I didn't want the noise to be like literally a jump scare. I wanted it to just, I think, be an introduction to the jarring scene that you're placed into. But like I was thinking about it afterward, and that would possibly be one thing that I wouldn't mind like reevaluating and doing in a different way. I don't want that to be taken as like that it's like bad the way that it's being done, or that like I wish that I did it differently, because naturally, like, there are a lot of people who, I mean, that's like in general, like a powerful scene in the game, and different people are going to have different experiences just depending on how you frame it. And the way that it's currently framed, that's like how, a lot of people had a powerful experience that way. And if it was framed differently, then for some people it'd be less powerful, for others it'd be more powerful. So it's all like very subjective, in the very first version of the game, there was actually a point during Act 3 where there was like one of Monica's like monologues was actually non-existent in the code, and so if it was like if like it randomly picked that monologue item, the game would crash, right? And every time you restarted the game, it would try to pick that same monologue item, and the game would just keep crashing, and you just could not talk to Monica anymore. And I saw that as like a pretty glaring error, because I wanted people who wanted to like spend time in Act 3, I wanted them to be able to keep doing that. But I fixed that, or maybe announced that I was going to fix it, and I received this email from someone and it was like they were asking me to not fix that bug, because they said that bug happens to me, and it was a really important part of my experience when playing through the game, because it felt like just an additional piece of the futility of what Monica's trying to do, and a way of forcing her away, like, just another force that prevents her from achieving her dream, and tells the player that they need to move on and do what they need to do. They said it was like a really important thing for them to experience that they like couldn't be forever with her, because that's like not how things are supposed to turn out. And I was just like, wow, like, this completely unintentional, like bug that actually like interrupted play for a lot of people, like that like gave this one person like a completely different experience with the game. And they were asking me like not to change it, because they didn't want that experience to be ruined, and they wanted other people to experience to have that same sort of moment that they had where the game crashed. I thought that was like so interesting, and it helped me more strongly realize just the total subjective nature of like design choices. And that's why I don't want to say that I should have done something differently, or like that, you know, one way is like better than another way, because it just, you know, there's so much subjectiveness around it. And when you're fundamentally changing certain things about the experience, like, you can't say one is like strictly worse or strictly better. It's just different people are gonna experience it in different ways. So that's how I feel about that. That was once again a long-winded answer, but you know, I wanted to talk about that lesson that one person taught me about design choices and the way that people experience games. I loved putting a little bit of focus on like Sayori's overall like silliness in this scene, you know? You didn't fully get to experience that side of her yet, I don't think. But she's just like, I don't know, she loves being a little goofball, kind of making people laugh. And I think, you know, Natsuki like gets a little mad at her because she did that, but Natsuki probably thinks it's funny too. And like, oh, Monica has a boyfriend. They don't like say it outright, but it's implied. It was nice to kind of have that scene without like Monica being directly involved, because Monica is, you know, she's sort of, you know, she's like the leader, and she like kind of wants people to be on track, and I think that sort of goofing off between all the other four characters is like not quite as possible when like Monica's there, because she's always like, you know, she always takes things like a little bit seriously, and you know, doesn't you know, tries to keep things on track or whatever. Oh yeah, that was very deliberate. It's so convenient to not have parents, and it's also kind of like a little nod at anime that does the same thing. Because yeah, like, you know, what purpose would they serve? They just get in the way. I do a lot of things like that in DDLC that's just like intentionally convenient for like setting stuff up, you know, where like the setup comes first and then everything else like happens around it, if that makes sense, you know. Like the scene with Natsuki on the chair and she like falls on the protagonist or whatever, like about how she has to like use a swiveling computer chair to like reach the shelf, despite the fact that like in the background you see like all these normal chairs. It's like, you know, just come up with whatever is necessary to set up for the scene, and like it doesn't matter how much sense it makes. Why are most visual novel backgrounds so devoid of life? Depends on what you mean by life. Do you mean like background characters and stuff? Probably just because they would be like not only like a pain to draw, but it would make no sense to like have them just lingering back there for like the whole duration of a given scene, I guess, you know? Well, like the main characters are moving. I don't know. That's just the way that I see it. Oh yeah, regarding ports of the game to like novel platforms like 3DS and I don't know, someone did like a PSP port, I think. Like those are more like I see them more as just like fun tech projects for that person / proof of concept. Like people like it is so unlikely that someone's gonna like pick up the 3DS homebrew port of the game before they play the actual game. You know, or that's the way that I see it. I don't think it's like stealing downloads or something like that. It's just like I see it more as just like a fun personal project that someone's trying to do. And since homebrew communities are like their own thing, you know, between like the homebrew developers and like the homebrew users who are also often kind of like tech inclined because they want to like install homebrew on their hardware. Like a lot of that stuff is just like enjoying it for the technical reasons or the feat or the proof of concept, something like that, you know, or just for the idea of like, you know, a fan of DDLC just saying that they have it on their novel, on their like PSP or whatever, like, you know, that's the way that I see it. Just as like, you know, once again, just additional ways that people are enjoying DDLC just from a more technical standpoint. I think I've like talked a little bit about Natsuki in the past, or like, you know, kind of the way that she's done in Act 2. You know, I think I did it in like a Reddit AMA a while back, but the main gist of it is that Act 2 is not really about the club anymore. It's not about like Natsuki and Yuri. It's a lot more about Monika and Monika's desperate attempts to get you, the player, to dislike everything about the game except for her. And Yuri is one of the best vehicles for that, because she's like so, you know, she can like get obsessive and has more potential to like just be like make you like really uncomfortable with the club than like Natsuki, I guess. And so like Yuri is more Monika's chosen vehicle for making you feel that way. And what is it, like, you know, again, if I wasn't like, if I didn't decide upon the scope of the game or specifically what I wanted to do with it early on, like I could have added a lot more content with all the characters, with like, you know, a dynamic Act 1, like where it could be any of the characters, and a dynamic Act 2 where it could be any of the characters, but like that just like exponentially increases, you know, the amount of work and decreases focus on the specific thing that I wanted to like do well with the game, you know. At what point in Act 1 does Monika start like making changes to the game? It's really hard to say. I think the turning point is basically like the chapter after this one, where Sayori is like noticeably feeling down, or like something is wrong, you know. That's probably around the point where like Monika is realizing that like what is it? The protagonist is only going to get into a deeper like romance with the other character, and that if like she kind of needs to try to do something about it to like steer you away from that. So I think it's probably around the next chapter that like Monika starts feeling that way. But I mean, the entire game, she's like, we don't really know the exact influence or amount of influence that she has on certain things. because you know, the whole point is that this universe is like an ever-changing universe where like the reality is just whatever it currently is at the time. And so you can't say like it's this way because Monica's making it this way, you know? I don't know. I'm probably like rambling and not making much sense. All right, thank you for joining, Phil Borgen. Hope to see you back tomorrow. I did mention, for those who weren't at the beginning of the stream, that I'm not going to like be making like any announcements tonight or anything like that. Unfortunately, I was just not able to like coincide things with this specific day regarding like, you know, announcing like, I don't know, future plans or like stuff I'm working on or whatever. So I apologize for that, but you know, when I talk about things when I'm ready to talk about them. Do I feel like knowing that I made the characters prevents me from being attached to them in the same way fans are? Well, yeah. I think that's kind of a given because, yeah, having like, you know, having written them from start to finish, like my perspective on them, I mentioned this a little bit earlier too, but yeah, like my perspective on them is just kind of fundamentally different. Because a lot of the feelings that fans have surrounding the characters are based on them experiencing the dialogue and the scenes in real time, and that like kind of shaping the character for them and coming up with their own, you know, feelings and interpretations. And of course, like none of that is there for me because you know, I was making those decisions and writing those things in the first place. So yeah, naturally, like the way that I view the characters is very different. But I feel like I like care about the characters, if that makes sense. Like it was you know, like it was painful to write certain scenes. I was like, you know, I reached a point where like I was you know, especially when writing like more about like Natsuki and Yuri's insecurities and like, you know, how they feel like so sad and hopeless sometimes. Like, you know, I just I couldn't help but feel really bad that that I, you know, like wasn't giving them like the happiness that like they deserved as human beings. But like, you know, that's not the game that I set out to create. And I just, you know, I accepted that. Life doesn't always have happy endings. You know, sometimes there's just, you know, things that are out of our control. And I don't think it's bad to experience that in fiction sometimes. You know, it's a part of life. And what matters is that you care about the character. And you see them in your own way, and you, and that they, you know, they give you those feelings, or they teach you something, or, I don't know, they provide a unique experience for you in some way. And, yeah, I think the way that things turn out in the end is going to shape that in some way or another. I can't decide what Monika's name would have been if it was Japanese, because I wanted it to be Monica. Thank you for joining, VidGray. This poem response in particular was quite hard to write because, like, you know, this is when, like, you're clearly going after Sayuri and she has to, like, you know, get a little bit Doki Doki for you. But she has to go about it in, like, her same sort of, like, you know, ditzy manner, or however you want to put it. Oh yeah, Sayuri's like shock face, or like this face where she's like just like the tiniest bit cross-eyed, like she's looking at something in front of her instead of like looking at, you know, the player or whatever. I loved that face. It's like it's one of those things that I kind of like envision as like, let's just like just very slightly like do that, you know, because it's so perfect for her character. Like she's trying to process the situation, and it's so, like, you know, silly and innocent looking. That was something I was pretty particular about. Yeah, Sayuri's not literally dumb, you know? But you know, when people have like a ditzy sort of personality, it's not like they're literally faking it. It's just like I don't know. It's sort of the way that they outwardly express themselves, I guess. You know, they like, you know, I guess they like having that sort of silliness about them. Because it can add like a positive energy to, you know, to their interactions. I'm trying to think what to say about this poem. It's probably one of my favorite poems in the game. It's so like, I don't know. For one, it's like such a strong contrast to the previous poem that you wrote. But it was at this point where it's like, you know, I had some of the other writing done like after this, I think. You know, kind of the scene where she like reveals her depression and stuff, and so I wanted to think about like just what's a really good way to start introducing the seriousness of it without like, you know, while still sort of saving most of it for like the big, you know, the big talk that you have with her. And so you know, I came up with like, you know, the idea that like she, you know, that she's like trying to give so much happiness to all of her friends and doesn't have any for herself. Yeah, and how it gets like, you know, it starts off like, I guess, kind of whimsical and sort of slowly transitions into something that's like kind of, you know, very uncomfortable or like creepy, you know, like the way I phrase this here, like digging and digging, scraping and scraping. I think that's like what I had in mind. I wanted to like sort of transform it into like something that sounds a little bit, you know, a little bit creepier. Yeah, so I think, you know, I'm really happy with the way the poem turned out in representing the way that Sayori experiences her depression, I think. And even the protagonist is like, holy crap. This is like, you know, I didn't expect something this like, you know, he doesn't see that side of her because she just like, she hides it, of course. She doesn't want to bring her sadness into, she doesn't want to burden other people with her sadness, but like when the point of writing is to like express your feelings, she, you know, I think that's just like, she started to, after joining the club, like she started to find like writing as this like magical outlet for expressing herself. And you know, despite the fact that she is in fact sharing that with people, like it's still more for herself than it is for other people. And she might just kind of be hoping that like, you know, that like the protagonist or other people aren't gonna like, you know, unearth her darkest secrets just by like, you know, reading into the poem a little bit, you know. She's probably hoping that they're just like, oh, it's like it's a nice poem, it's sad or whatever, and like that's about it. But yeah, I think it's a lot more for herself than it is for other people. Yeah, even the protagonist is like, yeah, never mind. I'm like thinking too hard about it, you know. Like I know you. You're just like, you know, a bundle of sunshine. And he kind of just like dismisses it. Ding ding, foreshadow. So much fun to like sneak a couple of these in here, here and there. There's another one where Yuri's like, this club is seriously going to be the death of me. I think that's coming up in a little bit. And even during one of Natsuki's exclusive scenes, she's like, Monica, are you trying to kill your club members or something? And I was like, oh my god, like, I don't know. This is so much fun. Oh yeah, even Natsuki's like, oh, this kind of reminds me of Sayori, because Natsuki's like, I don't know, I guess noticing that you're like spending more time with her, and maybe she's like getting kind of insecure about it. Yeah. So what I was talking about before about like the themes of like respecting, respecting like people's interests or whatever. Natsuki like wrote a very literal story of this girl named Amy who seems like just such a nice person, and like like the writer very clearly like wants to likes everything about this person, except like she's so repulsed by like this one interest that she has that like she just kind of lets it I don't know, lets it like ruin everything about her. And it's very clear that like Natsuki is she's taking out her feelings on people not respecting Natsuki's interests, like her friends. It's like like I think I'm it's like I think I'm a pretty good person, I just happen to have this interest, and like why are you letting it why are you forming an opinion of me based on that? Just let me enjoy it, and see me for who I am. So this part right here is like she's getting so literal about it. It doesn't matter if she has other hobbies, it doesn't matter if she keeps it private, it doesn't matter if it doesn't hurt anyone. She's just obviously talking about herself, but it's kind of the way Natsuki writes. It's like more blunt and literal, and something that kind of anyone can probably take a message from. So yeah, just use these simple analogies, and it helps people realize how stupid they're being. And of course, what she means by that is, helps people evaluate their own behaviors. That maybe they're being judgmental or something like that. But she like says it in her own defensive way, of course. I think if you go for Sayori, then both Natsuki and Yuri, like the poem responses are always neutral. They never dislike your poem, because Sayori, like her words are mostly in between each of their like appeal points, which is like fine. It's only like if you go for Natsuki, then Yuri heavily dislikes it, and if you go for Yuri, Natsuki heavily dislikes it. Sorry, but yeah, I think it like makes sense that it works out that way. But it's so sad when you when you go for one of them and the other one like doesn't want to talk to you anymore, because they're like, oh, you're just like writing to impress that person. Yeah, this poem was pretty fun to write. Without getting into it too much, it's it's about you know, a metaphor of, you know, the raccoon being a physical manifestation of, like, you know, maybe an obsession that, like, Yuri has, or, you know, like an addiction of some sort, and how, you know, the more she feeds the raccoon, like, the more it wants to be around her, and, it causes, you know, that sort of vicious cycle. The point of the poem is that Yuri likes bread. You know, who doesn't like bread? Like, Natsuki probably read it, and she's like, yeah, I like bread. Good job. It's, quite relatable, Yuri. Have I personally met Sakurai? I have not. It would certainly be cool to, but, like, I don't know. There are people who are so much more involved in the Smash community who are, like, more deserving of that, I guess, you know? And thankfully, many of them have gotten the chance to meet him, you know? But it's like, if I met him, it's like, I don't know, like, what I would say, or, like, you know, like, it would be cool, but, I can't see it as, like, some life-changing experience, if that makes sense, because it would just, like, I don't know, just someone whose work I tremendously appreciate, so, you know, it'd be nice to, like, shake his hand, you know, and let him know that he's, done a lot for my career, and, my life in general, you know. His games have given me a lot. Oh yeah, this is where, oh yeah, I have that privilege. I can roll back because I'm in developer mode. But this is where, you know, Natsuki and Yuri, like, you know, protagonist is like, you know, like, maybe you're not so different because you both just kind of, you know, want to be respected. And Yuri's like, oh, you know, she seemed like the kind of person who would make fun of my hobbies, but that's my fault for judging. So it's like, oh, +1 respect point for Natsuki. Oh, but don't tell her I said that because I'm, you know, I don't want her to, to know I was, like, thinking poorly of her or whatever. If I hadn't learned to embrace my own weirdness, I'd probably hate myself. Let's see what Monica has to say. It's like number 2 for Sayori. The more you write about the same character, like, the more critical Monica gets. Or, like, she starts to, like, tease you a little bit, or she's like, you should really try a different style, because I don't want you to, like, get closer to this character. In college, I studied IT. It didn't have much to do with, like, my, you know, like, what I ended up doing in my career, but it was, like, a really good fallback, you know? I already had skills in IT, you know, just because I always tinkered with computers throughout my life, and, like, in high school, I did, like, a freelance kind of computer repair business, so it was very natural for me to, like, do it in college, and then ideally sort of, like, just get a steady job in IT, like, as I was, you know, doing my own hobbies on the side, for instance. It seems like a pretty risk, like, not, you know, not too risky, and would give me, like, multiple possibilities. I'm not like unapproachable or anything, am I? You are literally unapproachable. I literally cannot approach you. This poem was fun to write. It's like, I don't know, obviously a little more directly breaking the fourth wall, but it's still easy to not think about it like that, unless you like revisit it. I think what she is describing here is what she experiences when you quit the game, or like when you're not playing. She talks about that a little bit in Act 3, if you let her. Because I was thinking about when, what is it? From a technical standpoint, when the operating system frees the memory that was allocated to that process, you know, the memory is not deleted instantly. But now that it's considered free memory, other processes start to allocate bits and pieces of it, and so like her world just starts to like get these like random pieces of noise like inserted into it until it just like completely fills her universe, and it's like screeching, you know, and it's like this horrible experience. You know, because it's basically like she's dying, or like her universe is dying and being replaced with like random noise. So that's kind of like, I think, what my inspiration was. Windows never frees up memory. Once again, she just like beats around the bush and is like, oh yeah, it's just abstract. Just like, you know, I was just like playing with words. Go S2J, what a boss. This was so much fun. Once I started doing like the Monica's writing tip of the day, I'm like, I have to do some like really fun stuff with this. So like, you know, Monica's like the tutorial character or whatever. So she's like, oh, don't forget to save your game when you're like making a difficult decision. So aside from the hilarious like fourth wall breaking that like the player doesn't actually think about until later, because they're just like, oh, you know, it's like when you play like Zelda and they're like, you know, like press B to swing your sword or whatever. like in the game, you know, they just like don't acknowledge their fourth wall breaking or whatever. Like, I was just thinking like the same thing with Monica, even though she just like, just as comic relief, she just like does acknowledge it. She's like, wait, what am I even talking about? But she does that like a few times, and it's just like just innocent like comedy in the game until later on you realize that it's like a lot different. I also like how I ended each tip in "That's my advice for today. Thanks for listening," because no matter how like bizarre or off the wall like her tip gets, she always like ends with that. Probably gonna go pretty quickly through this part because it's like fairly long and there's not all that much to talk about, you know. Just kind of like lead up to the festival, and you like get to know each of the characters a little bit more by seeing how they react to a public speaking scenario. You know, and like, I guess kind of indicates that they all like they all care enough about the club to do this, you know, for the sake of the club. It was pretty interesting to frame it a little differently in Act 2, for there to be like, you know, that additional bit of strife there, because things are getting like extra tense and weird. One, because of you know, Monika's meddling, and two, like Sayori is not around to make the club like a more comfortable environment, I guess. So, you know, these sorts of situations just end up being approached differently. Oh, it was really fun for like, you know, after like, after Monika goes and she's like, you know, oh, so it's like Sayori going next, and Yuri's like, I'll go next, because she like, she like, what is it? She like gets in her own head so much that like she like saw Monika doing it, and she's like, oh my god, like that's so, like I have to do this, you know. Because she like gets so into the idea of like expressing herself, so she's just like so intense. She's like, I'll go next, and then like it's only after she gets up there that she like realizes what she just put herself into. Now everyone wants to go home with the protagonist. It's hard for me to pick like a favorite song, but there are like a couple that I don't know, that definitely really stand out to me, because I really like just either how I compose them or how they work in the game, you know. Composition wise, I really love the poem minigame song. I was just like so happy with the way that it turned out in the end. Despite it like taking a while to get to that point. And then I really like the My Confession song, when you're in Sayori's room. That was a song that I had low confidence in my like composition abilities to be able to do, even though that's like a really simple composition as well, just like the rest of the music. I think like I don't know. I didn't really want it to be like generic like sad piano song, if that makes sense. I wanted it to still be like a song where you at least like remember the notes being played, and throw a few motifs in there from the other song, you know, from the other songs. You know, there's like a little piece of the melody is like from just the theme song of the game, and then there's a little bit from the poem minigame music as well. Sayori's like, oh, why are you spending so much time caring about me? You should, you know, spend time with everyone else or whatever. Alright, it's straw poll time. My music background is just like, I don't know, something that I've like done for fun over the years. Just like messing around with music production software and like making, you know, like mostly bad stuff, because I was like just a kid who didn't know anything about music composition. But I had done it for long enough that I think I picked up like just the amount that I needed to make like this game's soundtrack. But if it was like any other game, then I would never make the soundtrack for it, because I only have the skills to do just like something that can use like really basic composition knowledge and like simple instruments and simple mastering. Thank you, Mythos. Monica's memories of, like, the way the club was, like, you know, before you played the game, or in general, like, memories that the characters have. You know, like what is the context of them? I guess is sort of what you're asking. Like, did the club exist or whatever? You know, that's something that's, like, I don't know, weirdly philosophical, because it's like, you know, if you, like, you know, at any point in our existence, like, for all we know, like, our universe could have just, like, blipped into existence, you know, 5 minutes ago. And all of our memories and everything that happened in the past could have just been fabricated at that creation point of the universe. You never know. So I guess it would be the same for the game. Tournament edition. I like your, like, meta memes, Mythos. The Dan Salvato meta memes. Of course, it's Sayuri once again. People want to go Sayuri all the way. Give her the love she deserves before we have to say goodbye. Oh yeah, the poem minigame song. An early version of that song, like before I was finished mastering it, I used in one of my Melee videos. It was a trailer for a 20xXTE update. I was like, you know, this song would work pretty well, and it'll be hilarious. Like, after I eventually release the game, to be like, yo, like, look what I did like a year ago, and it was hilarious. People, like, went back to that video and they're like, oh my gosh. Like, there's, like, comments about it and stuff. It's so funny. I think when I released that video, at least one person was like, yo, where can I find this song? And I'm like, you'll find it eventually. No, I never heard from Game Grumps. That's kind of sad. I watched, like, their whole playthrough, and he's like, I gotta send this guy a strongly worded email. I'm like, I'll be waiting for that, because I want to hear from these guys. I spent a lot of time watching them back in like back in the old Ego Raptor and Jontron days, like the Sonic 06 playthroughs and stuff like that. That's when I watched them the most. And then I sort of like fell out of it for a while. And then I watched some stuff here and there, and then like I don't know. I respect those guys a lot, and like their playthrough was freaking hilarious. I loved it. I felt so stupid like setting up for this pun. I'm like, all right, like stupid Japanese pun, awesome. Monica breaking the fourth wall, like I don't know. I wanted a place in the game where Monica alludes to the fact that the game is written as if it was translated from Japanese. So I thought that would be like a funny place to put it, It's such a weird like back and forth between like Japanese versus English. It's like you're making a Japanese pun, which implies that you're like speaking Japanese, but it's like in English and it was originally in English, and Monica's saying it was translated, but it's like, I don't know. I just thought it was a funny thing to do. And when Monica's like, that's not how you say my name, it's because, I don't know. I was thinking about Japanese character sets and how her name would be Monika, but the way Natsuki is framing the joke, she's saying Mo-N-Ika, using like different syllables there, and so when she's like, that's not how you pronounce my name, like, it's it's such a dumb thing that you can't really like convey in text unless you like actually have I guess understand like the Japanese character set or whatever. But like I don't know, it was so perfectly stupid for this game that I wanted to include it. Yeah, I've seen Madoka Magica. I really like that show. I named her Monica because like I wanted her name to stand out in a way, because she like obviously serves a different purpose in the game. That's the first reason. Monica is like a good kind of typical like popular girl name, if that makes sense, or that's like the way that I thought about it. I feel like in a lot of media you hear like, I don't know, the popular girl, they're always named like, I don't know, Monica or like Becky. I don't know. Like it was just something I like decided pretty easily early on, and it just always felt right to me. I didn't have to deliberate over it that much. That just like really felt like her name. Karen. Yeah, this is a chapter where it's like Osiris like, getting really sad. Something is clearly up with Monica. Like, even if you don't know about the fourth wall breaking yet, but like it's sort of implied that Monica is having some weird back and forth with Sayori. Cause she's like, oh, like, I'll go talk to her, and then it's like you never find out what she talked to her about. And that's always kept like ambiguous, you know, because like it just not knowing the full picture with Monica's involvement just like gives you this kind of anxiety surrounding it, you know. Oh, I'm just tired. You ever say that where you're like feeling down and someone's like, oh, like, you know, what's wrong? And you're like, I'm just tired. I feel like that happens to everyone at least once. Sometimes like you don't want to make a big deal if you're about it if you're feeling down. And of course the protagonist like doesn't understand that him like you know, just like being nicer to her is you know, like not having the effect that he's hoping it will. You know, I don't know, like just visual novels or dating sims or whatever, it's like, you know, being nice to a character is often like your ticket to getting them to like fall in love with you or whatever. I don't think you're used to just like it having a more multi-dimensional effect, I guess, but I don't know. I was trying to think about it from a more realistic standpoint regarding depression and like what Sayuri wants. I didn't mean to say like, oh, like I'm doing something different and special, but the point I was making was that since I'm framing the game as like a generic one-dimensional dating sim, like up until this point, I was trying to start shifting the tide a little bit, if that makes sense. That needed like a little animation or sound effect there. Natsuki like hits you. Guess I just never got around to adding that, whatever. Oh yeah, this the whole thing with the third poem responses here with first of all, you know, Natsuki and Yuri both writing about the beach. I thought that was I thought that was fun to do, how both of them are like, oh yeah, it was her idea, you know, I just like went along with it. But it was like, you don't really know how it came up or who came up with it, but it's very clear that like they are becoming more interested in each other's writing styles and beginning to respect each other a little bit more. So that was fun. But the other interesting thing is, you know, if you pursue either Natsuki or Yuri the whole time and you get like their little secret poem, which is, you know, sort of like a confession letter or whatever, there are so many variables on like, because you read it and like, you know, say you read Natsuki's confession letter and then you go to Yuri and Yuri shows you the beach poem and she's like, oh yeah, Natsuki wrote about the same thing, and then the protagonist is like, wait, but you know, the poem I read of Natsuki's was totally different. And then, so it's like, the protagonist has to acknowledge that for the scene to make sense, but then it has to work the other way around, and it has to work like, if you read them in different orders, like there's just different like pieces of dialogue. The continuity with all of that was actually quite a pain to do, and I think I like messed it up a few times before I actually got it right. And I believe, I'm trying to remember, but I think there was still like an error in there somewhere that I had to change in a patch later on. But yeah, that was pretty difficult to work out. And aside from that, the 2 beach poems from the characters, I definitely like the way that those turned out as well. Probably some of the poems I more enjoy in this game. Yeah, Natsuki's is just, it's, you know, it's like cute and romantic, and she, I don't know. You don't really hear her like longing to be a positive force in someone else's life, but like I think this poem gives you like a good clue of like the kinds of close friendships that she really wants to have with other people. You can really see Yuri doing that, making us both write something so she can show off her writing. Then like Yuri says the same thing, but the other way around. It's like they don't want to admit that their relationship is changing with each other. What do I imagine MC as? I mean, I literally don't imagine MC as like a... I don't imagine him as a character in the same way that I imagine the other characters, because he's just like, I don't know, like the blank slate that says whatever's convenient. You know? Like, just deliberate self-insertion or whatever. No, that doesn't mean I see him as myself. God. My point is just that, like, yeah, he's just like this weird other, like, incomplete thing sort of character that's like just says whatever's convenient. I don't know. It's like probably pretty like similar feeling when you play like other like I don't know. I think probably certain eroge does that a lot, because like obviously the whole point is just to like, you know, have sex with the other characters or whatever. So like you probably see that a lot in eroge, where the protagonist is literally just like barely exists as a person even, and is just like these pockets of like convenient interaction with the other characters. This poem was like a lot of fun to write too. Yuri was, I think, trying to like sneak in a lot of like metaphors of how she feels about life regarding the beach. And Yuri like doesn't rhyme in her poems. But I don't know. I felt so good, like a well-placed rhyme, I don't know, can be so good. It can like feel so good, like when kind of wrapping up a piece of writing or something like that. I don't know. So this like rhyme that I put in at the end, like, sorry, I don't mean to like the rhyme that Yuri put in at the end. I apologize. Don't want to break the immersion. Not like I've been doing that for this entire stream, but yeah. I guess the I don't know, the dichotomy between the two choices, where it's like, you know, she's like finding some kind of peace. It's like, you know, she can either return to the melancholy of life, or like let go of it and find peace or whatever. I don't know. It's like super edgy, but I think like the way that it's framed and like I don't know. I like the way that it rhymes. How they're, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that might be the only time that Yuri actually rhymes in one of her poems. I'm aware that the beach is kind of an inane thing to write about. Shots fired. Oh yeah, this too. Even if you don't get the special, like, confession poem from one of the characters, the order still matters in like which one you talk to first. So that was yet another layer of like variables that I had to figure out. It's like, yeah, Natsuki already told me about it. Spaghetti code. Yeah, Mythos probably knows better than anyone else. There's so much spaghetti in the DDLC's code. It's like so freaking disorganized, but that's what happens when you just, like, I don't know, with these sort of like smaller projects that you just kind of like build, like keep kind of piling on more stuff over time. And you're like learning as you go, I guess. That like happened a lot with like the RenPy engine and, other random stuff that I had to do. Cuphead is awesome. Just the direct call out at this point, because you go with like a character all 3 times, and Monica's like, she was like, something's going on. Like, are you like, flirting with her? Like, what are you doing to my club? It'd be terrible if something bad happened to her. Monica was like playing innocent. What could have happened? This one was pretty fun to write too. Just tells a little story about Monica's futility and finding happiness through seeking answers, I guess. It's like, knowledge and omnipotence does not bring happiness, I guess. Don't have all that much in particular to say about that one. About this one, I guess it's fairly straightforward, but it was fun to like kind of frame it as like, like a little storytelling poem. Ahead of Time is also great. I'm really, what is it? It's so great to see collectathons like kind of back on the map. You know what I mean? Because it took such a long time they took such like a long hiatus. Because the ones that stood out the most were like, Super Mario 64 and like Sunshine and I guess Banjo-Kazooie. And there were like, plenty of others here and there, but those are like the ones that really stood out to people. And as the industry leaders like shift away from certain genres, like they kind of fade out, because a lot of the smaller studios, I think they find inspiration from and oftentimes want to follow what the industry leaders are doing, because that's like what people are playing, So it took a long time for collectathons to come back, and you know, A Hat in Time was like, I mean, it was very clear. They're like, on Kickstarter, they're like, we want to bring collectathons back because these are actually like genuinely fun games. Like the exploration, the little missions that you do throughout, the power-ups that you collect that like allow you to access more of the world. You know, like collectathons did not, it's not like they became out of date. They just became like out of style. You could still make like a modern collectathon. It was so great to see them come back. And then freaking Mario Odyssey, just like, I don't know. It's like A Hat in Time was like in development and stuff, and then all of a sudden Nintendo was like, yo, like, it just like came out of nowhere. It's like the next Mario game. It's like, yo, we're a collectathon again, and it's just like, oh my god, this is like so awesome. So I really love seeing like genres come back like that. You know what I mean? Same with what is it? Yeah, collectathons came back. Space Combat like sort of came back. I don't know. Star Citizen like is sort of happening. I don't really know where that is. But there was also like Elite Dangerous and stuff, you know. The last like Space Combat sim I played was Free Space 2, which came out in like 1999. And I'm just like, what the heck happened to that genre? It just like disappeared, you know. People just like stopped making it. But then like, I don't know. Kickstarter has given certain people the ability to like bring these genres back because you know, you go to a publisher and they're like, no, like no one's doing that right now, people aren't going to play it. But then like there's clear interest through crowdfunding, so that's great. So that happened. And then the other one is what is it, first person or point and click puzzle adventures. You know, like Myst and Ribbon were like hugely impactful games for me, and all of a sudden those came back with The Witness, made by John Blow, and then later Abduction, made you know, by Cyan, the creators of Myst. And I'm just like, I don't know, I'm going on a complete like tangent here, but I'm just saying it just feels so good to see like genres make a comeback, like these types of games that I enjoyed so much when I was younger, that I haven't been able to like experience fresh in such a long time. Why the heck are people just saying the DK rap in chat? Where did that start? Did I say something? I don't know. Okay, you three. They like poke fun at like Monica's catchphrase of "Okay, everyone." I wanted to give the characters just like these little quotes that stand out. And Monica's like the type of person where she would like have like the little phrase that she uses. You know, like in school, like you have one of those teachers who just really likes to use a certain phrase. You know, or it happens like in the workplace, like, I don't know, like your boss, like they like using a certain phrase or a certain word a lot, and like it just stands out to you and it becomes like kind of their thing or their catchphrase. I think that's what I had in mind for Monica's "Okay, everyone." And a couple other decent quotes that like summarize the other characters too, that come up here and there. I don't have like solid physical voices that I play for the characters, you know? It's like when you read stuff, it's like you have, I don't know, like your imagination, it has sort of like a half-formed idea of a voice for the character as you're reading, but you're not like literally hearing them talk in your head, like every word, for instance. That's sort of how it is, I think, with the characters for me. It's almost like I can hear the inflection in my head of the dialogue, but I can't hear the voice itself. I gotta blow my nose again, so I'm gonna mute my mic real quick. Alright, we're good. What advice do I have for new coders who want to make their own projects? The best answer I have for that, after having been asked it here and there over time, is it's like so easy to get like all these awesome ideas for things that you want to make, just these really ambitious, like I don't know, like if you have the drive to like create stuff, then it's so easy to get like all these amazing ideas, but oftentimes those ideas are too far into the future, based on where you currently are with like your skills or the time that you have, or like your budget depending on the project, if you like need to hire other people, things like that. So these are all things that you need to take into account in order to realistically determine like what's possible to create at the given moment. I think that the best way to successfully complete projects and as a result learn skills and learn from the projects is to limit the scope as much as possible to something that is within your capacity to do at the given time. Those amazing grand ideas, like you can put those off for like, you never have to give up on them or let them go. You can just, put them off and wait for when the time is right, but it's the small ideas where you just have to learn like a few new things to make it happen, and that can be finished within a realistic amount of time, or every piece, every time you work on it, you feel like you're actually making substantial progress instead of it just like always feeling like there's an infinite more amount to do. Limiting the scope like that, or picking a project that is just like very small in size that like almost guarantees your chance of completing it, makes such a tremendous difference and really gets you somewhere, because it allows you to maintain your drive and passion while learning the skills you need in order to get it done, if that makes sense. I've always learned skills as a means to an end. I get an idea, and the idea is like small and simple enough that I can learn just what it takes to like finish it, and it's probably going to be pretty crappy because I'd like just learned these skills, but it gives me a foundation to just start the next thing, which is like slightly larger, and build on that and get better over time. It's a great way to learn and build your skills while remaining passionate and driven and actually like putting things out the whole time. That's something I feel very strongly about, and I think for aspiring developers who like don't have much experience, being able to like realistically assess the scope of their project in order to make sure that they remain passionate and can like achieve things one step at a time, I think that's a really great approach to take. I feel so bad for Yuri here. It's like, okay, well, Natsuki is good at baking, but like, I don't know what to like, like what can Yuri do? It's not like she thinks that Yuri actually has no talent, but like in the context of the festival, it's like she doesn't know like everything Yuri is good at. So it's like she just can't come up with something. He was like, I'm useless. Which is funny because in Act 2, it's the other way around. Like, here, Monika's trying to come up with something, and she, like, feels bad, and Yuri's like, oh, I'm useless. In Act 2, Monika's literally like, Yuri, just do whatever you want. And Yuri's like, I'm not useless, you know? Monika's actually, like, you're the most talented person here, and makes Natsuki upset. Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting, like, changing the environment with Sayuri not being there, if that makes sense. You know, Monika has to actually kind of hold her own, but she's not perfect either. She's just a very normal person. You know, aside from her, like, destroying the world. I have not yet read Higurashi. Yeah, I've heard fan-made DDLC songs, like, you know, whether it's like certain remixes or just inspired songs, you know, in the same way that I have seen like a lot of other fan content in general. It's something that I tremendously enjoy experiencing, like people's interpretations and seeing their own creative talent, and like, I guess, being inspired by DDLC. It's something that I just that I really love, and makes me happy on a daily basis to see people producing DDLC content. So there's no way I can't, like, sometimes go out of my way to enjoy things like that, you know? And, like, you know, a lot of it is being made by people who are just way more skilled than me when it comes to, like, music or art or whatever else, you know? So it's just, like, in some ways it's inspiring to me, too. To, like, see something DDLC related, like, come to life in that way that I hadn't imagined before would be possible. Now everyone's trying to come up with excuses for the protagonist to spend time with them. Especially Monika. Monika's more straightforward. She's like, he hasn't gotten the chance to spend time with me, so... This same scene in Act 2 was also, like, really fun to make. It's like, you know, toward the end of Act 2 where, like, just nothing is nice anymore and, like, everyone's just being horrible to each other. Oh, man. You know, it was, I mean, I'm laughing about it now, but yeah, it was, like, sad for, I don't know, in some ways for me to be writing that because, I really like when the characters get along, and, you know, Natsuki and Yuri toward, like, around this chapter, them, like, kind of learning to respect each other a little bit more. You know, having to, like, throw some of that out the window in Act 2 was definitely like, dang it. I just want everybody to get along. I'm like Sayori, I want everyone to be happy. Yeah, if you pick Sayori and Monika here, it just, like, doesn't work, obviously. Because they're like, Sayori's already helping Monika. And then if you pick Monika, then Natsuki and Yuri, like, throw a fit, like, oh, she needs the least help, and Sayori's already helping her. They, like, guilt her so badly. You're like, you're the club president, like, you know, you're supposed to be, like, the most neutral, and, you know. So manipulative. But then again, it's a nice change for the other characters to be manipulative for once instead of Monika. Oh wait, this deserves a vote. Actually, just gonna undo that. Let's get a straw poll going. If you're still around, Mythos. I'm sure you're getting very tired. It's quite late there. You don't have to stick around till the end. You could just warn me if you have to head out. I don't know. It might be around a good time for me to like stop anyway, because it's been over 3 hours. It's getting like really late here too. But I mean, like after around the end of this chapter. I'll see how I'm feeling in a bit. But either way, like I'm gonna be back tomorrow, and my intention is to get through the whole game, because it would be silly to be like doing this commentary and not go through the whole game. So yeah, I want to give all of you a chance to go to sleep too. I actually forgot to consider that. I'm like, oh, you might not want to miss this, but you also have to like go to sleep. So I don't know. We'll like go a little bit. We'll go a little bit further. Wow, this one is so close. It's almost 50-50. Looks like Yuri has the edge. Haha, get it? That wasn't a knife joke. It's a oh my god. I was joking that she's like edgy. Yeah. I think it's still going. I don't know, man. It's a good place to stop. Yuri had just a slight lead the entire time, and as it's looking now, she's ahead by 3 votes. So we're gonna go with Yuri. I don't know. Actually, you know what? Maybe if I'm feeling it like tomorrow, maybe I'll just go back and do Natsuki too. I mean, it was so close. I would feel bad like not doing both of them. So yeah, maybe I'll go back and do the other one. But I always feel so bad for the character that's like not picked here, because they're like genuinely feel like dejected, you know? Like they're just like being left alone in this project. It's like there's 2 pairs, and then they're like the 5th, you know, the odd one out. And since Natsuki and Yuri like both have their insecurities about like how they, you know, how much other people like them, it's just like really sad for them to see. Or it's really sad to see. But I'm glad that you know, the other one is like kind of awkwardly trying to support them through it. Well, of course, when I say that, people are like gonna go back and vote Natsuki to like try to push her ahead, you know? But it's not fair like after I make the decision. I love this. It's like, yeah, I got her number, boy. Like, I'm in, boys. Or whatever. But it's not like this was an excuse for them to exchange numbers, because obviously, like, I don't utilize that much in the story. It was more like they literally need a way to be in touch, like, outside of outside of the club room. So it was like a necessity. Yeah, I'm super hyped for Smash Ultimate. That Isabel reveal was freaking amazing. It was like the last thing I expected. I'm like, you know, and now I'm just thinking, like, who's ever like going to want to play Villager now when you can play as Isabel? Like, you know, there's just like such an obvious choice there. That's of course just my own opinion, but like. Oh yeah, so about the length of Act 1, that's an interesting point to bring up, and I think I talk about it sometimes, but it doesn't really come up all that much. So, I knew during this game's development that I had to hit like a certain sweet spot for, like, there's like people who have experience with visual novels, and then there's like people who don't really play them, right? The issue is, people who have experience with them, or visual novel enthusiasts, or whatever, they oftentimes enjoy like lengthier exposition because they want to like spend more time with the characters and like get to know them more. However, for people who aren't really into visual novels or like don't play them that much, I think they want it to, like, especially for a game like this where it's just like, you know, so far out of their preferred genre, it's like a tropey dating sim. They want it to get to the point more quickly, you know. It's a situation where I can't please everyone who's going to play the game, and I had to just try my best to like find a balance between it being long enough to lead up to it, but concise enough that it doesn't feel like it really drags on, if that makes sense. That's something that like I you know, tried to consider regarding the length of Act 1, you know. And then like, you know, a big part of it is like when people stream the game and they like narrate it, it takes so much longer to get through because they're pausing and like commentating on it, and they're like they have to like speak every single line of dialogue. It takes so much longer that way, and that's again something that I didn't consider as much. I was just thinking about people like playing it solo, where it takes maybe like between 1 hour and 2 hours to get through Act 1, just based on like reading speed or familiarity with visual novels. So, you know, that's kind of around the spot that like I wanted to hit with it, you know, and I think all things considered, it's in a fairly, you know, I always felt like it was in a fairly balanced spot. I felt like it was pretty reasonable. It could always lean more in one direction or the other based on the type of appeal I was trying to give to the story. But I really just wanted to try to balance it for both of those types of players that I had in mind. Yeah, so this is probably like a fairly good stopping point for tonight. You know, because things are about to get a little bit more serious, and so you know, I was like poking fun at a lot of stuff today and talking about sort of a lot of the tropes that went into it, or the basis of the characters. So probably you know, during the next stream I'll be talking a lot more about like the horror elements, you know, and fun things that I was trying to implement in that regard, and feelings I was trying to elicit, stuff like that. So yeah, I would say it's a fairly good point. to stop for now. So I don't know. I can't think of a less anticlimactic way to go about this. You can tell I'm just like not very good at this. I'm just like stumbling my way through the stream or whatever, because like I don't know how to like be a public figure or whatever. Oh yeah, I have to like decide on a time for the next stream. Oh man, would it be too bad if I just like set the time tomorrow? I know today I didn't have like a very specific time, but that's actually because I had like other stuff going on today and I wasn't sure when I was going to be done. But I think tomorrow will be like a little bit more open, so I think pretty early in the day I'll be able to like determine a time for the stream, and I'll be like tweeting it out. So you know, I'm not going to make it too ambiguous. Now that you've all like, you know, joined for this one, I want to make sure that you don't miss any of the continuation. I'll be sure to do that. So you know, just I'm sure it's gonna be like sometime in the evening again. So I'm hoping it won't be like this late or as late as it was today that I get started, but it'll probably be in the evening. So don't be worried about just like accidentally missing it. You know, if you sleep in or whatever, I don't know, just keep an eye on my tweets a little bit through the day, and you'll be sure to catch it. So that's the probably the most planning that I can give you for the time being. Yeah, I'll save the VOD as well. So, yeah. I know I like missed a lot of questions and things like that. You know, there are some that I probably like didn't see, and others that you know, I just either didn't have a good answer to or like didn't feel like answering for whatever reason. So I apologize for that. Let's see what else. It's so tempting to be like, I don't know, just like play some other casual game or something like that while I have like all these people in the stream or whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's just a sign that I should stream more. I really gotta do that. I gotta like get my shit together, man, and you know, have like a schedule in my life so I can like find, you know, time for streaming. Really want to do that. I mentioned that at the beginning too, but yeah, I would love to just kind of stream a couple times a week and just, you know, do the things that I enjoy, like I don't know, speedrunning and Smash and Stepmania, just like the stuff I do on my stream. So I really want to like kind of just get back to that a little bit. So you know, here's hoping that I can make that happen fairly soon. No announcement tomorrow either. I'll be announcing my stream time. Thank you so much for all of your kind words as well. I think a lot of people stopped in just to, you know, say that they enjoyed the game and stuff, and I don't know. That like always like means a lot to me to hear, and it will never stop meaning a lot to me. It like, you know, that above anything else, just hearing like the different ways that people enjoyed the game is like such a great inspiration for like doing the stuff that I do, and it makes me want to always try harder to you know, give people these sorts of nice experiences through, you know, like games or interactive media or whatever other stuff that I do. So I just wanted to say that it always like means a lot to me. So thank you. You know, I'm sorry if I didn't like see all of your individual messages, but you know, just wanted to share my general appreciation for that. No, I don't have anything like, oh, if you donate, you get to ask a question or whatever. I don't know. It's like, I'm not I'm not making a career out of streaming where I'm like trying to trying to like get your money or whatever. In fact, like all the stuff in my bio with like the donate link and stuff like that, you can tell that's like super outdated. I probably wrote that like 4 years ago, because that was all like when I just did like speedrunning and Smash and like, yeah. I just think it's, I stream so rarely, I think it's funny just to look at my bio and be like talking about speedrunning and stuff. I don't think any character was like the easiest to write for, because I tried to, you know, I tried to give them all the nuance that I felt that they deserved in their personality. Oh no, All Melons is screwed again for GDQ. I just, what is it? I wanted to create a new route that was like an abridged version of All Melons, but before I knew it, like submissions were open, and it was just like, dang it, like I didn't have the rap prepared, and then I would have to practice it and get a good recording in. It was just way too much for me to do at the time, when like all of a sudden I just realized submissions were open. So I'm just like, dang it, guess I just gotta submit All Melons again, and hope that there's like, you know, some like a miracle this time around. But I don't know. Once I eventually create the abridged route, like I'm more confident about that, just because it's like short enough for it to be more, I don't know. I think the staff have historically seen like the length of it as an issue. It's kind of a lot to ask for nearly 2 hours. So I don't know. Still something I care very much about. In honor of the roast of Hugo, let's talk about oh my god. I thought you just said talk about hugs, but you're like, talk about beating hugs. Oh my god, come on. Why does this just have to like randomly come up every now and then? I don't know, man. I was never better than him, especially like back then, you know. It was just a clear instance of, I don't know, it being like a friendly, and like, you know, I'm sure he was rusty and I was like some wacky player. I don't even remember, to be honest. It was such a long time ago. But it was a fun little highlight for me, because like, yeah, I think the way Hugs framed it was that like he was always afraid that I like hated him or something like that. But I don't know. That was like one of my, I know this is not relevant to like 90% of the viewers, but fun to talk about the Smash days. You know, that was one of the things that I like distinctly remembered about Apex 2012. Not like I beat Hugs. That wasn't the thing that I remembered, because I was like almost, you know, I was quite new to the community, and I didn't know like the old school players. You know, but I knew who Mango was, right? And so like I was just like sitting in like the seating area in front of the projector, and like, you know, I just hear like a voice behind me, and they're just like, yo, he's like, yo, I lost to some like weird Link player earlier. His name was like Internet Explorer. And I just like heard that in my, you know, and I'm like, I turn around and I'm like, yo, what's up? And he's like, oh, hey, there he is. And I didn't know this at the time, but Hugs was probably thinking, oh shit, he literally just like heard me like shit talking him, like to, you know, to my friend here. But I was like, oh man, it's Mango. And then this, what happened then was, what is it? Mango said to me, he's like, dude, can I get a picture of you? And I'm like, what? I'm like literally having like a top like famous player asking for a picture of me, and I was just like this brand new like nobody. It was so freaking hilarious to me, and like just like a highlight of my tournament. So that's what I remember out of that. It was just like such a fun memory for me, you know. And the more I learned about the Smash community and you know, Hugs being like an OG player, I learned to like respect him a whole lot. It's cool that he's like been around for so long. He's like a great player. He's way more skilled than me. I think I eventually faced him in like a tournament like later on, and he just like destroyed me. So yeah, that's that's that little story. That's the memory I have of that. It's just so funny how we had completely different interpretations of it. It was only like a few months ago that I learned about Hugs' side, and I'm like, yeah, I was just so surprised. I'm like, come on, man, like that was literally like a good memory for me. Yeah, I've read other visual novels. I mean, the reason I wanted to make a visual novel was that other visual novels had been so impactful to me, and it inspired me to, be creative in that way, and like let others experience it, I guess. In just like the way that I felt like doing. So yeah, the visual novels that had a very strong impact on me in some way or another was the first one being Tsukihime, which was the first visual novel that I read, and that was part of the reason it had like such a strong emotional impact, but also like it being very focused on the characters and the kind of the overall story like evolving based on your understanding of like the tragic backstory of the characters. It was such like a moving story when I read it. Yeah, so I thoroughly enjoyed that. It like meant a lot to me as like a first visual novel, and that story has like that has its flaws as well, of course. It's not like a perfect story, and it's not like the like I've read other visual novels that are like more cohesive and strongly put together, or just like feel like they have a more expertly put together story in general. But Tsukihime still holds a very special place in my heart for what it did, both at the time and with the characters. So that was the first one. It also taught me that like something doesn't need to be like super perfect and professional in every way in order to have a strong impact. I think that was important because like what is it? The games that like had the strongest impact on me were like these super professional, like AAA games, like certain Nintendo games, or like Mist and Riven or Portal, like I guess Braid. Braid was like an indie game, but it was still very beautifully put together. But then Tsukihime, both because of its age and because of its like very small team and limited experience in various fields, it was like it only had like 10 songs in the soundtrack approximately, and for like a 50-hour game or whatever. It was like very a lot of like the visuals and the resolution and all of that stuff like felt very dated, but but aside from all these factors, it still had like such a strong emotional impact on me, and I'm like that in itself was inspiring, because I felt like I don't need to like I don't need to make like AAA quality stuff in order to like, you know, for at least some people to like enjoy my content, you know. So that ended up like being a pretty powerful lesson for me. You know, I think it gave me more courage to just like, you know, make the stuff that I wanted without constantly like, you know, scrapping and redoing and like trying to make like, you know, things that are too great of a quality that I'm not yet capable of doing. Yeah, that was a pretty long explanation of Tsukihime, but that's yeah, that's what it did for me overall. And then I really thoroughly enjoyed Steins Gate as well, and I really thoroughly enjoyed 999. So those are probably the big ones that like I like got the most that like impacted me the most. Yeah, I did read through Fate Stay Night, all three of them actually, because I was like, I don't know, I was like in college and, you know, pretty sucked into the whole visual novel thing, and I'm like, oh, Tsukihime was awesome. I have to read their premiere work, Fate Stay Night, you know, and I also thoroughly enjoyed it. In the end, I ended up liking Tsukihime more, just because of my personal preferences in like, you know, storytelling, or like what I look for in you know, in the stories that I enjoy. But Tsukihime, or sorry, Fate Stay Night was also you know, very like a great read, and I'm very glad that I did read it. And I'm definitely looking forward to the follow-up Heaven's Feel movies. I think those are a fantastic representation of the story in animated form, or at least like based on the first movie. It's like one of my favorite anime representations. So definitely looking forward to the follow-ups. Thank you so much, Narga. That means a lot to me. I talked a little bit about voice acting earlier. A general summary of it was that it was not something that I considered because, one, it was just out of my scope of development, like I didn't have the resources, and two, the way in which I wrote the game is like not suited for voice acting, because you write games, or you write dialogue differently if it's like meant to be read versus spoken out loud, or at least that's what I would do. And since DDLC deliberately reads as though it were like a poorly translated Japanese visual novel, it's not suited to like, the dialogue is not suited to being spoken out loud, and it would be written very differently if it was. Not too sure what you mean by did I enjoy the horror aspect of DDLC. Like, did I enjoy making it? Yeah. I had a ton of fun, you know, like adding horror elements to the game. I felt like it was like such a great canvas to play with, just to like implement all these fun little ideas that I had. You know, just like finding like fun ways to break the rules. Yeah, so the story in Yuri's character file is just a short story that I wrote, you know, quite a long time ago, actually. Yeah, I think in 2015. And, you know, I thought it would just be a fun little thing to include for people to find. Because I had, yeah, I had published the story previously, and it got like a pretty good deal of attention. So, it was, it made me feel confident enough in the story for me to kind of reintroduce it in that way. Just like, oh, here's this, like, you know, little past work that I wrote. Check it out. Just for people who are like looking for a little bit more. Because the only other way that story was published online was anonymously. So it was a fun little way to, you know, it otherwise would have been very, very difficult for people to find, like if they were looking for like other writing or whatever that I have done, like they wouldn't have been able to find it probably. Yeah, Monica's socks. Believe it or not, that is something that I've talked about before. I think the decision to give someone different colored stockings came before giving them to Monica. I think I just felt like, you know, I want to give one of the characters black stockings. Just as like a little, I don't know, little personal detail. And it was like, I was thinking about like Yuri, but I was like talking about it with other designers a little bit, and it was like, I don't know, she's not like, it doesn't feel like something she would like deliberately do to like be, you know, to like draw attention to herself in that way, if that makes sense. But I'm like, you know what, like it would make sense for Monica, because like she, you know, she's kind of the differentiated character anyway, in various ways, and she's like the confident one. So it, like, you know, that's kind of how it worked out. But yeah, I'm not gonna like, you know, talk too much about like the content of the Easter eggs or anything like that, you know. Really, mostly what it came down to was for a game that like encourages you to like manipulate the game files, like how disappointing would it be for there to be like nothing more beyond just like, you know, the bare minimum of like what the game asks of you. I knew that people would like want to do some digging and find more stuff if the game is like practically asking them to do that. So that was my inspiration for like including at least some additional content for people who wanted to do that stuff. From you know, I say that from the developer standpoint of like where I found the inspiration, but you know, I'm not going to start getting into like the conspiracy theories and all that stuff, simply because, you know, if I, that's not my space to get involved in, you know. For one, like theories, you know, it's very fun for that to be like a part of the fan community, and two, if people are asking about that content in relation to like future work, then it just comes down to like, I'm not ready to talk about future work yet, you know, and when I'm ready to talk about future work, I will. So in, you know, on both of those topics, one, like the theories, and two, like future work, you know, that's pretty much like what I have to say about that. How tall am I? I am 5'3". I am a tiny little man. The room conversation. You probably mean like Act 3 when you're alone in the classroom with Monica. I haven't timed it, actually. And it also depends on like reading speed, I guess. But I would say on average it could probably go on for about 2 hours before Monica starts repeating topics. Oh, Irisu Syndrome is a really cool game. It's not even something that I like played through in full, but like the bits and pieces that I've seen, I always thought it was like really cool. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the concepts used in Irisu Syndrome were an inspiration to me in some way, despite me not having spent like very extensive intimate time with the game. It was just a pretty good example of like what's possible to do when messing around with or when games do stuff beyond like following its own rules. Yeah, keep playing if I keep talking. I wasn't thinking about that actually. No, but like I don't know, because I can either like focus on like talking with the chat, or I can focus on like giving commentary on the game. It's like hard for me to do both at the same time. So I think it's like, everyone probably at least deserved for me to have a conversation with all of you, aside from like trying to having like my attention divided. And I already chose this as a stopping point before I like resume tomorrow with commentary on the game. So, the DLC did not receive an update on Steam. If it did receive an update on Steam, then it might have been related to Steam's experimental. I forget what the feature is called, but it was the experimental wrapper for playing Windows games in Linux, which when Valve announced that, and they announced that DDLC was like one of the pilot games for that, like a lot of people like tweeted that like. They're like, what the heck? That's kind of ridiculous because DDLC like is already compatible with Linux, and you just haven't activated it on Steam, Dan. Like, it's kind of embarrassing that like Valve is doing this when it's like already has a Linux port. And I acknowledge that, but when I received the email about DDLC like kind of being a pilot game for that, I was like, I was thinking like, okay, like, it makes sense for this to be like a good opportunity for for that sort of like testing to be done, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I was kind of proud that it was a pilot game, and I felt the desire to play my part, if that makes sense, and allow, especially as a game that involves like the files and stuff like that, that was a good opportunity for for like testing of that that new feature that Valve is trying to incorporate. So that's why I decided to like let that happen basically. But if DDLC really receives some kind of update on Steam, then it might have been related to that and had nothing to do with me. I think that's probably where I'm stopping for now. I already definitely went on some serious overtime with the chat here, but I you know, it's getting super late here and everywhere else, and gotta like take care of a couple things before heading to sleep. So yeah, we'll go ahead and end the stream here. But you know, I'll be back tomorrow. Just keep an eye on my tweets to find the time at which I'll be streaming, because I'm not totally sure yet, but it will be sometime in the evening. So we will continue the playthrough then with my commentary, hopefully finishing up tomorrow. So yeah, thank you all very much for joining. I had a lot of fun with you. It was great to just do this fun little thing for the game's anniversary, my first public playthrough and commentary of the game. So yeah, thank you all so much, and have a great night, and I will see you again tomorrow.